Hello, and here we go once again, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to you all. We are here for the UKSimRacing Securities GT3 League Season 12, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And this Sunday, the 14th of January 2024, marks round 2 of 8 of the series that continues to keep our drivers on their toes and ask the question, who is the master or mistress of one of the most popular racing classes in the world? And it is none other than, of course, GT3. But as the drivers get ready to go racing today, it's time for round number 2, and with it a visit to the Hockenheimring Baden-Württberg circuit in Germany. A circuit that was previously known and perhaps best known for its tour into local forestry, indeed rather regarded as a high-speed, high-octane thrill ride, which would see machines all the way from club car racing up to the standards of Formula 1 back in the days of V10 engines roaring the way into the forest, whereas in 2000 through to 2002, the circuit underwent a major redesign under the guise of Hermann Tilke in order to bring the racing back to a locale where it would be more viable for spectators to watch the racing. And here we have the circuit as it is today, rebranded as the Hockenheimring Baden-Württberg Grand Prix circuit. And as our drivers get set and ready to go today, a circuit that is widely known for its controversial setup, with many saying it's a Hermann Tilke printed template circuit, where it's a combination of straights and highly technical corner sequences. But I can tell you one thing, this is a circuit that shouldn't be underestimated for the technical challenge it presents to drivers. With 16 corners, many of them being crammed together in short but sweet technical challenges in terms of those direction changes, but also on top of that, a variety of low to medium speed corners. When they all come together, it means that for our drivers here, they need to be absolutely deft in the ability to manage direction change in their cars and manage to avoid any potential oversteer. If they get it right, they'll find themselves coming out on top. And the most important session of today arguably will be qualifying, because the circuit is limited in terms of its overtaking zones. But I can promise you one thing, you're still going to see plenty of overtaking here, and perhaps most notably at the split-scale hairpin at turn at number 6. But all that more will be revealed shortly as we welcome you all to this live broadcast from circuit side. And you can be tuning in by one or two media platforms to your viewing pleasure right now. And whether that be firstly on the official UKSimRacing YouTube channel, and if you go to youtube.com and search for UKSimRacing or UKSR, welcome to you guys and girls on YouTube. But we also have this broadcast running simultaneously on Twitch at twitch.tv/UKSimRacing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via twitch.tv. But as we get set and ready to go today, all your racing action this season will be brought to you by myself. Allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX11 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And let's give you a recap of the season calendar and where we were last time out. For as we can see, we've made our way today into the 14th of January, and we are here in Germany for our only round on the European continent this season. Goodness me, it's crazy to think that the vast majority of our rounds are located either in the North American continent or alternatively in the Pacific Oceania region. But we're making one visit to the European continent, and we're here at the Hockenheimring today. But last week we kicked off with a bang in our endurance race round to kick off the season on the 7th of January, and how could we forget the visit to Daytona International Speedway, which got to see our drivers go toe-to-toe and some absolutely phenomenal battling, it must be said, from start to finish, where it be the absolutely intense battle in the elite class, which saw James Armstrong take the win in the end after also some strategy playing into the mix. Alternatively in the pro class, the absolute sublime drive to victory from King-Magee, albeit some great sportsmanship being shown by Rachel Conkley, who could have been on course for P2, but in the end relinquished the position after some contact with Peter Cox and ended up finishing at P5 behind their rival. Alternatively in the prime class, we got to see Chris Constable have a dominant drive to victory, albeit we saw UKSimRacing stewards Alan Lever and Rob Selby stay close behind and work together to make it a double podium for the team. Or in the AM class, where practically every driver in the class ended up in some sort of mistake or incident of one another. However, there was one driver who avoided all the danger, all the controversy and everything between, and that was none other than James Conley, who brought home an absolutely brilliant victory. But of course, it's round 2 today, and after today it's a critical one, because this is the last round before we have our one and only mid-season break. Indeed, next weekend we're not going to be seeing any racing due to the fact we have the official iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona, and therefore again our drivers the ability to take some time off, either to prepare for the 24 Hours of Daytona and take part in it, alternatively just simply cool things down before we return to the race on the 28th of January. And to wrap up the month of January, we head to Suzuka in Japan for the one and only Suzuka International Racing Course, and my goodness, that is going to be a thriller, there's no doubt about it. And then we'll make our way back to the United States of America via the Pacific Ocean for a double header of firstly the Sebring International Raceway for round number 4 on the 4th of February, and then we make our way to Road Atlanta in the US state of Georgia, and the Brazelton Circuit is going to deliver its roller coaster ride of road racing corners, and that'll be in round number 5 and our second endurance race round of the season on the 11th of February, but we then make our way back to Japan for our second and final time this season for the Okayama International Racing Course, previously known as TI IDA, and the circuit has been recently revamped in the iRacing Simulator platform in terms of graphically and also with regards to bringing a bit more fidelity to its modern day layout, while drivers are going to be taking it on the 18th of February, and that is going to be a sight to be seen. But we make our way to neighbouring Australia for the Mount Panorama Raceway, but you all know and love it and refer to it as Bathurst in our endurance race to wrap up all 3 of our endurance races in round number 7 on the 25th of February. But then again, it's not over, because after our drivers have ascended and descended from the Australian mountain, they'll make their way back to the United States of America for the conclusion of the sprint race of the 3rd of March, the one that's undroppable, and it will be in round 8 of 8 at the circuit of the America's Grand Prix circuit in the state of Texas. And who will be able to do the Texas two-step? That will be the crowning question for our championship contenders. Well, let's go from our calendar then to our circuit for today, and as we can see, we are here at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württberg circuit, the Grand Prix layout of which located near the town of Hockenheim in the state of Rhein-Neckar-Kreis, and that would be in the wider state of Baden-Württemberg in Germany. And as our drivers get set to go racing around this circuit, provided in terms of the track map by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it. This is a circuit, as you can see from the visualization, that is definitely one that is all about the technical graph with regards to its corner combinations. On top of that as well, this may be a 2-dimensional image, but this is a very flat circuit as well, and therefore it's why a 2D image doesn't quite undo what is the potential justice for visualizing this circuit, and the fact there's very little elevation change, if any, around here. And as our drivers make their way across the start-finish line up towards turn number 1 into Nord Curve, it's all going to be about who can carry as much speed as possible without hitting the apex curve and launching the car wide with excessive understeer, or carry too much speed and run wide by default, because there will be some time penalties accrued if not. If our drivers get it right in Nord Curve, they'll make their way up towards Parabolica at turn number 2, which normally we our drivers go straight on into the forest, but of course that has been completely concreted over and trees have been planted in order to make sure drivers cannot go race into the forest anymore. A little bit of historical context there for you, but instead our drivers will be turning right and making their way through the turn 2 hairpin into the left-hand kick at turn 3, and then it will be completed through turn number 4 to make on their way through the Parabolica curve at turn number 5. There is going to be a flat-out run all the way up towards the Spitzkehrer hairpin, and arguably the longest straight on the circuit, and that's where we're going to see our drivers battle under braking into the hairpin, the slowest corner on the circuit, and we could see 2, 3, even 4, perhaps even 5 wide at the start of the race as they make their way into the hairpin at turn number 6, and as they exit out, roaring backwards to the throttle pedals as soon as possible, they then make their way into the first of the 2 arena sections, beginning with the Mercedes arena at turns 7 through to 10. It's a right-hand kick followed up by a heavy braking zone into a left-hand right-angle corner at turn number 8, and it's the sweeping S of turns 9 and 10, which will see our drivers run onto a short straight, which sets them up for the Mobile 1 curve. There, the right-hander at turn number 11, a deceptively late apex, and a very tricky corner to get right at maximum attack, for the simple reason, if you carry too much speed, you'll run out onto the gravel, but carry too little speed, and you'll be outclassed by your rivals in towards turn number 12. But get it just right, and you'll make your way into the cambered left-hander, which will see our drivers roll on through in 2nd or 3rd gear, while they make their way for the direction change S of the turns 13 and 14, and into a double right at 15 and 16 at Sud curve to complete lap and do it all over again. So it is an intense lap, particularly in that second half. All the overtake you'll normally be seen in the first half of the lap, and it's all about keeping your cool, keeping it calm under pressure, and bringing the car home come the end of the lap to do it all over again or reach that checker flag. Well, as our drivers get ready to go racing, let's give you a reminder of the rules. We can't go racing without them, and as we can see here, start off with car setups. Well, for our drivers are not fitted to change their car during the season. Indeed, the car we saw them take to the grid in Daytona, that's the car they'll be locked to for the remainder of the season, and car fuel loads will be restricted to 70% for all races. In terms of the sprint session today, qualifying wise, you'll see a lone qualifying format shall be used, so all the drivers will take to an isolated instance of the circuit in which they can put in their qualifying times, and drivers shall have the best part of 4 laps or 15 minutes, whichever expires first, to set their best possible time. Now that does mean for our drivers they've got plenty of time to get a good lap of the board, arguably, particularly when you have a lap time around here of just shy of 1 2/3 of a minute, or alternatively in other English, 1 minute and 40 seconds. So that means our drivers have ample time to get it right in qualifying, or at least that's what they'll be thinking. But then we come on to the race rules, and in general, races will commence by a double file rolling start. This is a tradition of the UKSimRacing GT3 League. There are no mandatory pit stop requirements in the race, but we are expecting at least 1 pit stop given at the fuel load attributed to our drivers' cars. Each driver has 1 fast repair available, which they may use, of course, coming into the pits at some point in the race to repair some damage on the car, whether it be minor or major, and all race shooting shall be conducted post-race, particularly for major racing incidents. As it is a sprint race today, the drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points. But as we do head to our live picture circuit side, ladies and gentlemen, all the drivers out there right now in the final practice warm-up session. Let's take you through your schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC. And as we can see, in just under 9 minutes' time, we're going into our first sprint qualifying session of the season. And that lone qualifying session definitely will turn things on their head compared to the open qualifying session we saw at Daytona. But it'll be 15 minutes in duration maximum, and we look forward to seeing who can put it on pole, given the fact that track position around here is going to be so important to success, particularly if you can get a good run at the start of the race on the opening couple of laps. But after that, we'll make our way immediately to the grid for our 60-minute sprint race, and that'll be at 8:15 this evening as our drivers will line up and get ready to go racing. And goodness me, the tension, you could cut it with a knife here at the German circuit, for the simple reason, after the ante was set at the Daytona circuit, our drivers are only going to push more and more. And when you do have absolutely pleasant conditions right now, 20 degrees centigrade ambient temperature, 21 degrees centigrade track temperatures. We see somebody in the rear of the picture getting it wrong, going to the wall there, coming through Nord Curve. I believe that is one of the Arnold competition drivers. Well, right now, all of the drivers will be giving it everything, given the fact they can push the maximum. But as they get set, we do have a couple of changes in store on the grid, and will not change here for Rob Selby for UKSimRacing Stuart as he makes his way on through the Parabolica curve. But we should point out as well, if some of you were wondering, why did you see the qualifying laps or time in red text earlier on? Because we have had a change for lone qualifying sessions for this season compared to what was season 11. In the fact, in season 11 we saw the qualifying session, if my memory serves me correctly, being a allotment of 3 laps or 12 minutes, whichever expired first. But we have increased the lap pool by 1 and also the timer to 15 minutes, as it just makes it a little bit more comfortable for our drivers. But also it means that our drivers have a bit more time to get themselves set and ready to go race there, and it is a nice in between. But as we do see Selby making his way through turn number 10 and up towards turn number 11 right now, the Ferrari 296 driver. We do have a new name on the grid today, but he's currently in the pit lane, and you're going to be keeping your eyes out for Tom Weston, who'll be joining this season from this round onwards, and he's going to be competing in what will be, I do believe, none other than the Pro class. And well, as he gets himself set and ready to go, we look forward to seeing how Weston gets on. We also do have a couple of team changes going into this round, starting off with one of our elite drivers in the form of Hermann Tilke, and we're currently in the pit lane, in fact making his way out of the pit lane as you see him here, and the Lithuanian driver has gone from over limit racing or OTL racing to Absolute Motorsport Ace Lift. And congratulations on Jatar's new appointment. Indeed, I think he's looking very much forward to representing the team today. All new livery on the car and flying the banner high in the elite class, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on after what was a little bit of a challenging day at Daytona last time out. In fact, wasn't quite on the pace to contest the top 4, but at the same time was close enough to stay within the fuel saving draft. But as the racing broke out, and in terms of the strategy, we saw the race go through 3 stints. That's where we saw the top 6 in particular start to fracture apart, and then it came down to what was a very close race between James Armstrong, Aiden Neate and Alex Millward. And well, we'll talk a little bit more about the elite leaders very shortly, because there is something in store today which could shake up the field when we go racing, and it all comes down to some qualifying bans which weren't available to be applied come what was at round number 1, due to the fact the penalty system for drivers who did jump back to the pits and then make their way back onto the circuit, well, they weren't able to execute. Our stewards, we should say, were not able to execute that system efficiently, and therefore we have seen some post-round penalties be awarded, and those came through into today. But we'll give you an update on those very shortly. But as we look for Harold Jatartas, another team change as well is in the form of what is none other than Rhys Saunders, previously racing for Team Year 1. We're going to see him in privateer colours for the season, I do believe, racing in the Red Bull livery there in the number 91 Porsche 992 GT3. And I caught up with Rhys in the build-up to today, and he was saying to me when I asked him how's he feeling for the Hockenheimring circuit, he's feeling slow, and the reason for that is he hasn't really had much time to put in any practice, because at the same time as this, well, we've also had this weekend the Raw before the 24, the official iRacing event, and Rhys was competing in that, and I'm very pleased to say on his behalf that he was the winner of the 7 in the morning top split Raw event in the LMP3 class. So congratulations to Rhys for his performance, indeed himself and his teammates, if he was with some teammates out of the circuit. One achievement there, and definitely something to be very proud of for the Briton. And now he's got to find his pace, find his feet rather rapidly to get himself right into the mix here today at the Hockenheimring. Well, this might just be one where he grins and bears it and picks up some points where he can. We'll have to wait and see. But as he makes his way on through, we do say hello to a good number of you in the YouTube and Twitch chat, particularly in the YouTube chat right now. Kieran Lowe, who says to all of our drivers, good luck tonight, racers. And well, we do appreciate that, Kieran, and I hope you're doing well. And to all you guys, girls tuning in, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. Let us know how your weekend's been. Let us it's not been a great weekend. Well, hopefully we turn that frown upside down with some fantastic racing here in Germany today, and let us know who you're cheering on, of course. But as we do, look to John Eddowes here, the TC Sport Tour driver. Difficult day at Daytona for Eddowes. Indeed, the TC Sport team have very mixed fortunes, albeit some great successes, but also some difficulties in defeat in terms of not quite being on the pace or on the strategy. When I had the chance to catch up with team principal Greg Zenhai in the build-up to tonight, he was saying to me in the fact that all of the team not really looking forward to this round, in terms of the fact they're not fans of the Hockenheimring circuit. And this is one of those circuits which you either like it or you don't like it. It's a Marmite circuit. Yet the fact I think many drivers would like to have the old run through the forest where the average lap speeds were heading closer towards 140 miles an hour, whereas around here you look at average lap speeds of around what is about 90 to 95 miles an hour. As Eddowes makes his way to the Spitzker hairpin braking zone here. Well, Greg was also telling me that it really has been a week of all the team trying to catch what is lap time in terms of their practice sessions and evaluating their time versus the official iRacing at GT3 series, plus also what they see from other drivers in pre-practice sessions. And well, right now it's all going to come down to the task, there's no doubt about it, but definitely some interesting insights there. And well, as we then look to this man making his way out on circuit, the DCW Racing driver, it is Tom Weston in the 44, the Britain, flying high, the colours, the yellow, blue, and also what is red there for DCW Racing. Called him a privateer earlier, but he is officially as part of the team that represents them this season. And well, he's going to be in your pro class then. How can you tell who's in which class based on what you can see on the cars, the times down left hand side? Well, they do have an orange-yellow sash across the window and also on the door cards and also in the timing tab. That does mean they're in the elite class. If that colour's been changed to blue, like what you're seeing here for Tom Weston, that means they're in the pro class. If they've got green, well, that means they're in the Pro-Am class, our new class for this season, of course. And then if they've got a reddy pinkish colour, that's going to be in the AM class. And speaking of the AM class, well, here is your last week's winner, James Connolly for UKSimRacing Mansell, and the 46 driver here making his way on down for Parabolica right now, only 2.5 minutes if that left on the clock, and get himself absolutely ready to go here. And well, we'll talk a little bit more in qualified about the form we're potentially expecting from what is our different machinery on the grid, but it is definitely going to be a round today where it's going to be very different compared to Daytona. Daytona, of course, was an endurance round, but also on top of that, you have to consider that Daytona really was about trying to stay in the slipstream train, given the fact that over what was 70% of the lap was spent at full throttle with the Daytona road course featuring the best part of 80% of the oval banking. But here we have nothing of the sort. We don't have any major straight, minus the run out of what is the Parabolica hairpin all the way down towards what is Spitzker hairpin. So therefore our drivers do have a segment where they spend at least 20 seconds full throttle, but beyond that most of the straights are very short, so fuel saving itself all comes down to lifting the coasting into the braking zones for major corners, and therefore our drivers here will need to make moves when they can, for the simple reason they don't have long and they don't really have the luxury of just sitting in the draft and letting the guy or girl ahead do the hard work for them. But as we do look from James Connolly to Chris Round, another driver who was looking forward to tonight when I checked in down the paddock earlier on, the Leroy Jenkins driver here in the number 4, having a little bit of fun with Casper Tunstead there by looks of things. I think the term practicing what battling looks like into the Spitzker hairpin, and we see the Audi R8 Evo 2 driver going around the outside here, and this is going to be a common scene we'll see in the race in terms of side-by-side through 17 towards 8, and I think right now both drivers appreciated the fact they're giving each other room, but also enjoyed a little bit of racecraft practices. We do see a small wobble on the rear end of Round's car, I think a little bit of power oversteer there as he tries to settle the car down. That is something that can catch the R8 Evo 2 out in the fact that whilst the aerodynamic improvements compared to the original R8 LMS in 2015 saw that rear end planted down a lot more, it also means that the Audi is the car that as a driver you're encouraged to push more and more. But the problem is when you get more eager with the throttle pedal and you push the car harder and harder, it's much easier to push it towards the ragged edge of adhesion in terms of the grip available in the car as he makes his way on through this curve at turn number 15 and 16. And coming on through, let's come on to a key thing that is definitely going to be influencing what could be an interesting qualifying session in the elite class, and that is some qualifying bans in effect today, and we do have two of them to talk about, and also in the pro class as well. And the first one is the fact that this man, who you see parked up, albeit merged with another driver there, and that's the UKSimRacing UK driver Lee King-Magee, he does have a qualifying ban in the pro class, your winner last week, and that was due to what was the inappropriate return to the pit at Daytona, and the same does also apply to Alex Millward, who you will see having to start from the back of the field, effectively, at least the elite field, and not all of it, due to a qualifying ban. So they're not going to be out on circuit, but we can tell you one thing, all the other drivers will be out on circuit as it is time for qualifying. 15 minutes, 4 laps, whichever one comes first. Here we go. It's a lone qualifying session. It's going to be a quiet circuit out there, but whilst it may be quiet, I tell you one thing, each and every one of our drivers will be making their car roar high, and indeed for the spectators around the circuit, for you guys and girls tuning in at home. As we do see Connor Craven making his way down for PXLSimRacing, what is the form that we can expect here today at Daytona in terms of qualifying? Well, given the fact it's a lone qualifying session, the prospect of using slipstream to try and improve your lap, essentially siphoning a bit of speed off of the rear of one of your rivals or a teammate, that is going to be a no-go. There's nobody else out on circuit other than the drivers who occupy in each of their lone sessions. So therefore it all comes down to your ability to master the Hockenheimring circuit and also being able to make the most of your machine. Now on paper, we are looking towards the mid-engine rear drive machines in the GT3 class that will be the stronger contenders here, because this is a cornering circuit, it's a technical circuit rather than a power circuit. There are some power zones and traction zones, such as turn number 6, which we've just seen Craven making his way out of, but we're expecting the likes of the Porsche 992 to do very well here today, given the fact that this car does have a lot of natural rotation to it, and it is typically geared more towards these low to medium speed corners and the ability to get through them as quickly as possible, as we do look to Helder Gonçalves making his way up towards turns 7, 8, and 9, heading up towards the Mercedes arena, and well, we can expect plenty for the Track 6 racing driver as he makes his way in towards the turn 8 braking zone. And as he does, we're also expecting some stiff competition for the Audi R8 Evo 2, where it's going to feel quite at home here, and also do not count out what will be the potential for the Lamborghini Huracan Evo 1 to do well, and we look here to Ed Frazina as he makes his way up towards turn at number 11, the Mobile 1 curve, and going on through there in the wonderful colour machine, that lovely dark green that goes so well on the Italian machinery. As he goes on through turn number 12 here, we're expecting this Lamborghini to be very nimble, and it's been looking very close between the three aforementioned cars in what have been the practice sessions earlier on in the week. Meanwhile, cars that we may expect to struggle a little bit over 1 lap pace do include was the BMW M4, as we do see Neil Smith there running a bit wide in the AM304 machine, albeit Neil Smith was looking quite feisty at Daytona, it has to be said, and here we look to try and go a little bit further today, but with the BMW here, it is a car that's more leaning towards straight line speed, albeit the one thing this car does have in its favour, it's a very stable platform to work with. Arguably, some would say it's a very boring car to drive, in the fact it doesn't really get too exciting unless you absolutely push it to its limit and then go beyond it, but it's very hard to find that limit, and therefore the BMW, a very popular car with GT3 drivers on the iRacing simulator platform. It did in the real world as well, with Team WRT of course moving to the BMW platform over the course of the trail end of last year, and as we do see it, where Neil Smith making his way on down towards turn number 7, this car is definitely going to be one to watch out for, because it may just have the race pace that it doesn't have in terms of 1 lap pace in qualifying, and Smith will try to prove that as he heads into the braking zone here. Meanwhile, we also do have, I believe, a 1 Mercedes AMG Evo out there, although I can't quite see it at the moment. In fact, I don't think it's here. So in fact, it is here, and we have the wonderful roar, that guttural roar, the 6.3 litre V8 naturally as racing being piloted by Rob Armstrong, and well, the Mercedes may not go too quickly here, but still, at arguably what is its home circuit with a massive sponsorship deal or partnership deal between the Hockenheimring host and also Mercedes, and indeed that led to quite the expansion of the stadium section with the spectator stands around turns 12 through to 16. We can definitely tell you that Armstrong right now will be feeling as though he can make this car roar in front of the stands, and as he makes his way on through at Mobile 1 curve, we're right now getting ready to put his first lap of the board, and as he does so, we say hello to a good number of you who have recently popped messages in the respective stream chats, including Matt Edmondson or Medway in the YouTube chat, who says got home just in time to race, and that's good to hear that we do have Matt Edmondson out on the quick, because it wouldn't quite be the same without our intro guy, the man behind the scenes putting the videos together, introducing the streams. So we see him here making his way on down towards turn at number 2. We also do say hello there to Bruno Buttigier in the YouTube chat, who says come on ODC or Old Dudes in Cars, and well, we'll see some of the Old Dudes in Cars drivers out there very shortly. We'll try and get you some footage of them. We also say hello there to Joey Ridledge for TWS, the wrong stuff, get it boys. Also there to Stuart Pearson in the YouTube chat from SAS Racing, and we haven't got the grid this season, but he's been a previous competitor back in season 10 if my memory does serve me correctly, and well, he wants to get back into the league, and we'd definitely love to have you back in the near future, Stuart. Love to see you on the grid for season 13. Also hello to Racing the Void in the Twitch chat, UKSimRacing and Chris Eddersford, and also there I do believe anyone else who's tuning in has not said hello. But now we come back to our drivers here, and as we do see Edmondson Johnson making his way up towards turn number 8. Let's look to last week's overall winner, James Armstrong here, as he cuts a huge swathe over the apex there at turn number 10. You want to cut as much as possible when you can, albeit of course riding high on those apex curves, particularly when they do have the raised orange-brown sausage curves on them, it can destabilise the car. But the Audi R8 driver right now absolutely pushing it to the limit, and as he makes his way on through what is turn number 12, we're getting ready to come to the timeline shortly, albeit he's got the direction change of 13-14 and then the double right of 15-16 to go first. We're going to be jumping on board with James Armstrong for a flying lap very shortly. He's currently the fastest man out there. It's only fair that we do jump on board with him, and as he heads to the line, well, here we go with James Armstrong once again as he takes us around for another flying lap. Into turn 1 he goes, and as he does, onto the brakes there, dropping down. In fact, decides it's already done enough, a 37.294, so we're not going to quite get a lap with James Armstrong straight away. We'll try and get a lap with one of our other drivers who's gone onto a lap there, just perfect timing of course, but James Armstrong putting in a provisional pole lap of a 37.294, and that is going to be a huge proverbial stake in the ground to beat for the simple reason it is a very fast lap. It's one of the fastest we've seen since the practice sessions earlier this week. In fact, I think it's the fastest we've seen so far at this circuit, and as we continue to see the times trickle on in here, well, we have got all of your top 7 of the standings on the left hand side at the moment, but we show you the overall standings and how our classes do start to fit together for our top 35. We see the Herodish Notatus, who we're looking at the moment, P4, and right now trying to get himself into what's contention for the front 2 rows of the grid. Arguably wants to be on the front row of the grid, but it looks like on large competition right now of Armstrong and Sobreiro trying to lock it out for the team with the McLaren MP4 12C driver, one of a limited number of McLaren drivers, doing very well to manage that. But still, as the drivers continue to push on around, we are going to get an on-board lap shortly, and well, we are just waiting for other drivers to make their way towards the timeline. Will we get an on-board lap with the P2 driver, Sobreiro, as he makes his way on through it in the McLaren MP4 12Cs on his second flying lap right now. He may opt to bring the car into the pits after this one, given the fact that our drivers do have the out lap plus 4 flying laps, albeit if they have bought a lap that's in progress, they will lose that lap. But Sobreiro makes his way to the timeline. What's it going to be this time around? It is currently 1.7 tenths off of Armstrong's pole lap. Is it improving? No, it's not. And as he makes his way on through turn 1, he carries on, and we're going to jump on board here. He clears turn 1 and roars his way towards turn 2, looking to his left hand side and breaking out the 100-meter board all the way down to first gear as he trail brakes it nicely as the apex and back on the power. Now flat out here through turns 3 and 4, and Paraproof oversteering there as he drops it off of the curve at turn number 4. That upsets the car, but he's going to stay nice and close here over to the left hand side for Parabonica curve. He's going to try and cut the run down towards Spencer-Kera as much as he can. The shorter distance between the 2 points, it's going to be the fastest as he heads towards the braking zone, braking about 125 meters from corner apex all the way down to first gear, once again slamming it down the gearbox and the old school V8 bi-turbo machine as he powers his way out. Now back up through the gearbox here in towards Mercedes Arena, he gets ready to go into turn 7, flat out through the right hander, upshifting out onto the apex of 5th gear, and as he brakes hard, braking about 100 meters from corner apex, using the escape road on his right side for his marker, down to 2nd gear before he makes his way on through it, left into right he goes, through turns 9 and 10, down to the curve at turn number 10, they're trying to chop off the corner and shorten the run and through, as he heads in towards turn number 11, staying close to that left hand side wall, 4th gear. It's amazing how they don't graze that wall, and as he comes on through, they're just running right to the track limits as he breaks his way to turn number 12, points the car into the apex, down to 2nd gear, using the camera road to force the car around, now accelerating back through 13 to 14, straight line the 2 corners together, he's going to the left hand side, 3rd gear all the way into turn 15, and as he makes his way in to the final right hander to complete this lap will be his 3rd flying lap. Well, Sobreiro is a very aggressive lap, but he did have a couple of mistakes early on, and I don't think he's going to be able to improve this time. As he comes across the line where it was a fast lap, albeit not fast enough. It's a 37.921, and well, in the end, half a second off his previous best, but that goes to show you how hard he's pushing, and well, pushing it a bit too far on that one, and a couple of missed gears it would seem, but he's got one more flying lap to go in this session. But as he does so, well, we've still got a few drives, we've got quite a few laps to go, albeit one driver who's just finished his qualifying. That was briefly old dudes and cars, Marvin Cruz, who we caught there. He's parked up and towed his way back to the pits. We do look here to Mark Collicott, another DCW racing driver out there, with of course Tom Weston joining their ranks for this season as of today, as we do see Collicott making his way up towards turn number 8 here. We're right now currently down in the class in what is, I do believe, P10 in the Pro Class, P24 overall, and looking for a bit more time versus Nicholas Rice. Rice's qualifying session is over. He's only put 3 flying laps in, but he did abort his full flying lap, and he won't get that back. So therefore, for Nicholas Rice, a P23 start overall will be the highest he achieves, P9 on what is the Pro Grid. And the question being asked there from Zeros in the Twitch chat, what are the penalties this week? We have 2 penalties in effect for qualifying, and that is both qualifying bans. Firstly, for Alex Millward in the Elite class, and for Lee King-Magee in the Pro class, and that is due to the fact they did tow to the pits when they weren't permitted to in the qualifying session at Daytona. But we couldn't apply the penalties then and there, so they were allowed to go back out to the circuit, but it does mean they're taking that ban into this round. Those are the only 2 penalties in effect for qualifying and going into the race. But as Mark Collicott parks up, he moves all the way up to P4 in the Pro class, a nice into his qualifying session, no doubt about it. And meanwhile, we've got more times coming on through. This is Daniel Shilcock heading around as David Sobreiro off screen takes P2 in the elite class, and overall the 37.320 to Armstrong. He's only 7.5 hundredths off, but Armstrong has got the job done, it would seem. Meanwhile, as we look to Shilcock here, who's looking for a very impressive performance right now in his qualified session. He's been able to sneak ahead of Tratatus. What is happening further afield in the AM class? Neil Smith is currently your provincial pole sitter of P32 on what is an impressive 38.78 ahead of Matt Edmondson by what is 700s, and Smith there bringing a surprise in the BMW M4. And again, Jack Barker only a further 2 tenths behind in the 4 GT, the 1.4 GT on the grid. Gonsalves moves up to P6 overall in the elite class. Meanwhile, Chris Round goes what is in the end P2 prime. That is the end of his qualifying session. He's on a cool down lap now. He will not be fitted to anymore. He just misses out versus Simon Oldfield, who's taken the provisional pole. Alan Lever's out there on a lap still. In fact, we looked at Alan Lever as the UKSimRacing Stuart driver weaves his way between P13 and P14. And as he does so here, what can Lever do to wrap this up? Well, in the end, he can bring it into the pit, and he's not happy with the lap he's done. But one driver who is going to be a bit happy with the lap he's done, in fact, he's only just started his qualifying session. It's the wrong stuff. Joe Duton, the Luxembourgish driver, making his way out to turn number 12 up towards 13 and 14. He's left this very late in the day in the Prime class. And, well, with Steve Hughes not able to make it out onto the grid at the moment, I think there's a technical issue for Steve Hughes' car. And Duton backs off there and decides to use that first flying lap as a warm-up lap. And he slowly makes his way through the final corner. Well, I think there's an issue with the car. That's going to be a tow to the pits by the looks of things. He makes his way back. Duton right now does have 3.5 minutes to still get the qualifying time in. But has he decided that he needs to have a further look at the car with the team? Is there something wrong? As Christopher Bates makes his way across line, I believe Chris Bates has his name shortened to it. And as he makes his way on through then the very colourful privateer RGB racing machine, well, he stays at P49, P15 at Pro-Am. And, well, the only other drivers out there right now, Aiden Neate has finished his qualifying session. He's P3, and that's where he's going to stay, because Reece Saunders right now is the only other elite driver out there, and he does have this one last lap he's on to try and set a better time. But the problem is for Saunders in the fact that look at the deltas, in the fact the top 3 in the elite class and the top 3 overall separated by less than a tenth. Saunders right now 9 tenths off a pole, and he has got a lot of names to try and beat to jump onto that second row of the grid as a minimum, if not even more. But he makes his way up towards turn number 7, 8 and 9 into the Mercedes arena. Here he goes, 2.5 minutes on the clock. We'll definitely get this in, but Saunders right now may just be still acclimatising it to the GT3 rather than the LMP3. Well, they both have the number 3 in them, but they drive very differently. Although, interestingly enough, the two cars have got very similar top end speed, but the LMP3 has a lot more downforce available to it, and that is where the differences lie in the complexities, albeit these GT3 machines being overperforming road cars, if you will, in terms of they've had the performance ramped up to 11, and as he makes his way on through at turn at number 12, Saunders right now not improving in sectors 1 and 2. Perhaps he'll improve in the final sector and just find a little bit more time to get him close to Eric Rosev, P9. And well, between them, of course, they do have quite a sizable run on the field, but Saunders into the pits here. P14 overall is where he's going to start, and that will be P9 in the elite class. Meanwhile, as we do still have out on circuit Chris Bates, who in the end gets it roll carried out of turn 15, but he puts on the spectacle for the fans there with some tyre smug, and I think doing a little bit of a celebration in the fact that he's happy to be here. But as he brings the car down, well, meanwhile, Aiden Neate crosses the line, and in the end, that will be his final qualifying lap. He does not improve, but still, it's a P3 start. It's going to be a 1, 2, 3 on the grid for on-edge competition. A great way to start off the day in Germany. And well, the big question will be how quickly can Alex Millward come through the field, the Effect Simulation driver who has to start from the back of the elite class, if not the whole field. He's going to have to carve his way through, but we've only got 1.5 minutes left on the clock. There's your top 35, and to give you a quick summary of your pole sitters, it's James Armstrong, elite pole sitter and overall, and then P7 will be Joshua Pratt, the TE Supersport driver, delivering in the pro class. So he may not like this circuit, but he's definitely finding a way of liking it. He takes P7 on the grid, your pro pole sitter, and then we have your prime pole sitter of Simon Oldfield taking P11 there ahead of Chris Round and Chris Constable. And look at that, between Oldfield, Round and Constable, 100th between the three of them. I mean, it's technically 1.1 hundredths, but let's just scrap the fouls up there. That is incredible. And then further down the order between Neil Smith and Matt Edmondson, Smith takes pole position in the M-Class P32, and that is only by 7 hundredths versus Edmondson. It is definitely going to be an intense race, and we still have one driver out there on flying laps, and let's not forget him. Here's Stein Arsani for Race Lab Esports. He's only got 20 seconds left on the clock, and he's on his final flying lap, and he's going to be started at what will be P39 at this point, albeit P11 in the prime class here. And with number 78 driver not having a strong qualifying, so she's going to be starting behind quite a few AM drivers, including Barker and Bostock, and well, that does mean that for Sani, it's going to be a long road ahead, but he'll be ready for it, as all the drivers will be, because 15 minutes hits on the clock. It's time to head to the grid, ladies and gentlemen, for round number 2. So the drivers make the way onto the grid. This is how they'll line up for our second race of the season. And it's James Armstrong who takes over on elite pole for Arnage Competition, joined on the front row by David Sobreiro for Arnage Competition Pink. Behind him on row number 2, it's Aiden Neate for Arnage Competition, and Tractix Races Daniel Shilcock. Harold Stratata starts P5 for Absolute Motorsport Ace Lift, ahead of Helder Gonçalves for Tractix Racing. And then we can see Josh Pratt taking pro at pole and starting at P7 on the grid for Tiki Simsport Corpa, ahead of Jack Taylor, his teammate there, albeit from the sister team of the Tower outfit. Eric Rosa starts P9 for Race Lab Esports, ahead of Ryan Davies for Tiki Simsport Carmarte. And then we have your prime pair of Simon Oldfield, your prime pole sitter for Team at Badgerstill, starting P11, ahead of Chris Round for Leroy Jenkins P12. And on row number 7, it's Chris Constable for Destino Motorsports, ahead of Reece Saunders, with Tom Weston starting P15 on his debut for DCW Racing, a great qualifying session for him, and just out qualifying teammate Mark Collicott, who starts P16. Rob Selby starts P17 for UKSimRacing Stuart, ahead of Casper Tunstead for Peak Sim Racing, and then you see Daz Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars Blue, and Next Gen Racers Gavin Garner completing your top 20. Khalid Ramadan starts P21 for Somsport, ahead of Tiki Simsport Kimmy's Alex Hill, with Alan Leather for UKSimRacing Stuart starting P23, ahead of Pete Cox for Destino Motorsports. On row number 13, it's Marvin Cruz for Old Dudes in Cars Blue, and Jeff Grisses for Built Visible Racing, and then we have Casper Brockner starting P27 for Old Dudes in Cars Black, and he will have the company of Destino Motorsports Nicholas Rice P28. Completing your top 30, it's Rachel Conkley for Prismatic Motorsports and Matt White for the Privateer. And in P31, it's John Eddowes for Tiki Simsport Tour, ahead of your Ampole sitter Neil Smith, the Privateer, who starts P32. Matt Edmondson will line up P33 just behind him for UKSimRacing Stuart, and is joined on the same team throughout the grid by Stefan Albanese for DRS Esport. Then we have Simon Andre Livingston for Race Lab Esports P35, ahead of Jack Barker, the Privateer, P36. Ahead of on the 19th row, James Bostock for Petek GP2, and Krista Halsoy for Tractix Racing. Then completing your top 40 is Stein Arsani for Race Lab Esports and Connor Craven for PXL Sim Racing, head of James Conley for UKSimRacing Mansell, and Daniel Pace for Old Dudes in Cars Black, who starts P42. And as we continue to make our way down the grid, Ollie Pinley starts P43 for Symphona, head of John Davis for the Wrong Stuff P44. Ed Frazina P45 for Carfellas, ahead of Neil Jack. And then we have Rob Armstrong for UKSimRacing Mansell, and Andy Skinner on what is there your 24th row of the grid, the Tiki Simsport Corporate driver, being followed up by the pair of Chris Bates and John Doble for Tiki Simsport Kimmy. Guy Kylie starts for the Wrong Stuff P51, ahead of Know Your Sabas, the Privateer. Si Hartley starts P53 for Tiki Simsport Carmarte, ahead of Alex Millward for Effect Simulations. Lee King-Magee and Steve Hughes line up on what is there your 27th row of the grid, with that 28th row of the grid for AKM Racing UK and Red Mist Racing, and Joel Dutton starts P57 for the Wrong Stuff. With all the field being set, ladies and gentlemen, we are now only moments away. It's 57 drivers who line up, but who's going to win come the end of it all? Well, the pace car peels away immediately as Armstrong leads him into the final corner. He gets to choose when we go green. It's 60 minutes of racing here at the Hockenheimring, and now he's just waiting to pull the trigger. What's going to be a fiery race in Germany, but who will come on top? It's going to be lights out. Away we go when Armstrong's ready to do so. And keep your eyes on the clock there. The lights are going on, and it's away we go for Armstrong as he builds up the speed and roars his way into turn number 1 as he comes down to the braking zone. It's a good start for Armstrong, but further back there's already chaos further afield. There's been a major incident right towards the midfield of the pack, and we'll have to take a look back at that very shortly. But as the lead field make the way down towards turn number 2 here, all coming fast and hard onto the brakes immediately. Harold Stratata is looking around the outside of Shilcock, albeit I believe in fact that's Helder Gonçalves being attacked by John Tartas, so John Tartas having to defend him versus Gonçalves as we get our bearing straight as they make the way through Parabolica curve, which definitely been a bit less dramatic at the front of the field compared to how it has been towards the rear of the field. But I can tell you right now, we've got quite a sizable split in the field as Tom Weston's lost a couple of places at the start of this race, and as they make the way down towards Fitzgerald Sobreiro for the first time in this race. You're going to expect quite a few lunges under braking. This time will be cold brakes and cold tyres. It's not going to be easy as they all come down. The front bumper falls on Casper Tunsted's car, and as they come through an instant turn between Western and Tunsted, everyone right now is the part of the seas around the stricken drivers. There's some contact. Whitefoot going into the rear of Western's car, and as they all bring themselves back up to speed, it's drama at the hairpin, and as they come on through, all the field now catching up from behind. We've still got more drivers coming on through, including Chris Bates, who right now batting there with Rob Armstrong. Armstrong just in front of him, and the privateer in the 35 looking to go on the offensive versus the UKSimRacing Mercedes as they make their way in towards Mercedes Arena. But as they do, Alex Millward here trying to pick up another place. The effective relation tries to start from the back of the field. He knows he's got all the hard work cut out for him, but he's not finding any places immediately. He's going to be fair the best part of 13, but there's more to go. As meanwhile, we can see them a bit of side by side just in front. That's Connor Craven being passed by Frazina as they make them into Mobile 1 at turn number 11. As they come in towards the braking zone at 12, well, Craven's looking back up the inside here, but I think doing it more to defend versus Pimley and Millward. As meanwhile, Millward says, well, don't want to do as he goes up the inside of the Civic Esports driver and takes another place. But as they make their way towards the end of lap number 1, meanwhile, we look from there as Millward tries to take a little peek there versus Craven. It's going wide for the All Duty Cars driver. Oh, what was that? I do believe Marvin Cruz. He catches the car back, and as they make their way onto the start-finish straight, well, meanwhile, we look up towards the front of the field, and here's a change of position between Helder Gonçalves and what is Jack Taylor, with Jack Taylor trying to look for the move. He can't quite find it. Gonçalves, the Portuguese driver, still hold on for Track 6 Racing. He's on to P6. That's meaning that Jordatas and Shilcock are running away. Already your top 5 are breaking away for the rest of the field. So it's the top 5 of Armstrong ahead of Sobreiro, followed by Neate, Shilcock and Jordatas. Then P6 is Gonçalves ahead of Taylor, followed by your pro leader of Josh Pratt, P8. Then it's Eric Rose at P9 ahead of Ryan Davies, P10. Chris Round is your prime leader, P11. He's still got Constable and Oldfield right behind him in the freeway fight for the lead of the prime class, and then a long way back, but he's gained 10 places at the start of this race. Neil Smith is your AM leader right now. I think he avoided all the drama on what was the race start procedure, and we still need to take a look back at what exactly happened there, and I believe we have got a replay coming up very shortly, albeit we haven't quite got it at the moment, but I can definitely tell you it was a dramatic start, no questions asked, and for all our drivers, one I think where the midfield in particular still trying to recover from it. But as we do look to James Connolly making his way up through turns 7, 8 and 9, coming into 10 now, he's looking to go on the offensive versus similar Andre Livingston, but he can't quite find it at this time and having to still wait his turn, and that gives us a prime opportunity to take a look back at that race start from the midfield's perspective. As our field made the way through, we're looking towards the blimp camera view, focused on James Connolly here as they made the way on through the final corner. And as they did, a massive concertina effect started to play out. But where exactly was the spin in the field? I think that's the big question for our drivers. And, well, whatever happened here for James Connolly, in fact, they all came into the scene in the instant, so it already happened. I think Rachel Conkley had been involved quite closely in the instance. We take another look back here towards what was Rachel Conkley, who found herself right in the midst of it, Prismatic Motorsports. We're looking at one of our lower cameras here, and as all drivers got underway, I think some drivers get a faster start than others, and as we went green flag racing, oh goodness me, a car's coming across. Conkley tries to take evasive action, and the Prismatic Motorsports driver just ends up in the wrong place at the right time, but it looks like a couple of cars in front ends up being right in the thick of that instant. We take a further look back at the race start instant. This is on board with Krista Housewife for Track 6 Racing, starting behind Jack Barker, and well, I think Housewife is going to come into the scene, but there was, it seemed as though, a bit of a freeway incident between a couple of drivers up there, including an all-black Porsche that we're trying to discern. You can see it already kicking off there, and everyone right now sensitive. Where do I go? Where do I go? And well, in the end, most drivers get on through them, but the Albanese coming back across the road, but Housewife just dodging that in the end, and that was your race start, ladies and gents. We can't quite tell you what started the incident, but we can give you some perspectives of our drivers there. Definitely not the way they wanted it to go, and as our drivers push on, well, right now we return to your live racing pictures. We notice that the circuit map has gone and tried to be a bit shy, so we bring it back there in the top right, we reload our overlay. Don't worry, that's not your TV screen having problems, it's on our end, and as we return to that race action, Neil Smith, your AM leader, still P22, and we've got looking for a move versus him. What is Casper Brotner as they make the way in towards turn number 12. But in terms of battles still out there on the circuit, we've got plenty of battles going on as we're only 5 minutes into this 60-minute race, but everyone now started to settle down, and that's the thing with the Hockenheimring. After the early drama of the race, it now really does become what is a focus on the mindset of just keeping your head down, sticking to your strategy and managing the race. Casper Tunstad missing that front bumper after losing it going in towards turn number 6, the Spitzker hairpin, as they make their way out to the braking zone at 4 Nord curve. With Sharples right now looking for the move here versus the Peak Sim Racing driver. I think it's Weston who's looking for the move on Sharples, and here comes Weston on the left of your picture, and when maybe it's debut, Weston is not afraid of exchanging moves with some of the best in the field in terms of his class. They make the way on through turn number 2 into 3-4, and that is a lovely move from Tom Weston to move up to P9 in the Pro class, or it's P25 overall as he pushed on down. Now, I do suspect all of these drivers may have little elements of damage on the car. That's not as pronounced as Tunsted's car, but right now Tom Weston definitely showing his credentials. They head down towards the braking zone. Meanwhile, we can see they're looking up the inside of Neil Smith. That is Casper Brotner making the move for P22. He goes all in on the brakes. Smith tries to now get the cut back out the corner, but the Porsche able to deploy the power just a little bit more comfortably, and that enables Casper Brotner to make a key move, which moves him up to P22 and enables him to be released to go after Kelly Ramadan, who's P6 of the Pro class, just up the road ahead of him. But from then, we do look back to what is your leaders of the Prime class. In fact, we ride on board and look back from the rear of Chris Round's car for Leroy Jenkins. And well, the reason we're focused on this, because this is the battle of the two Chris's, the right to be the superior Chris in the form of Round versus Constable, and that's the Destino Motorsports Audi. Constable right now absolutely sniffing up the rear toe of the Brown's car and looking to try and find every little ingress it can. And meanwhile, Simon Oldfield, only what is a further half a second behind, wants to try and get involved in this as well. However, the Team Vandersteel driver also worried about the fact he does have Mark Collicott coming on through, and Collicott very quick on the pace at the moment is the Pro driver, and he'll want to clear these primes as quickly as he possibly can. But as they make the way on through, there's still plenty of races out there. We get some feed coming in from you guys and girls down in. Where's the pit lane? 2G's and High, who is pointed out to us in the Twitch chat. There's been a spin for Alex Millward that's completely upset his run through the field. Remember, he's having to essentially last the first challenge if he wants to win this race in the elite class, given the qualifying ban. But meanwhile, further on down, Alex Hill here side by side with Gavin Gardner, and with the Pro driver trying to pick up the elite driver right now for next gen racing, as the TE Simsport Kiwi Audi on the right of your picture starts to build up some speed. That Ferrari takes a lot of time to build up to top speed. When it does, though, it's very hard to catch. But the problem is that Ferrari just does not have the legs on that 6-cylinder engine versus the V10 of the Audi. Albeit as they make the way to the braking zone here for the hairpin. Hill's going to be on the inside, Gardner around the outside. Gardner's going to commit to this. It's going to cost them both a lot of time versus the primes in front of Lever and Zelby. As they make the way into the Mercedes arena, side by side they go, and Hill's still here right now with Cox in the rear of the picture, plus also what is, I do believe, Philippe Ramadan. This is only grouping the quartet up, and Garner on the inside here. This is brilliant batting. They're not really gaining anything in terms of fighting one another. If anything, Hill's losing massively as a result of this in terms of his rivals getting closer and closer. There's still spectators. We love to see it, and as they make the way on down towards turn number 11, we can see they're going into the braking zone. No change between them, but in the end, it will be the opportunity, albeit of a bit of a rub there between the two drivers, but they head onto the brakes here for turn number 12. It's going to be Hill now, who is being passed by Peter Cox, as Cox uses the opportunity set up for him by Gardner and Hill fighting, and Peter Cox gaining the key move, but Hill comes back. There's contact between the two into Sud Curve as they make the way through, and well there I think Alex Hill just being a little bit impatient, I think frustrated, losing out versus Peter in the run on through the corners, and as a result, well, the two of them have exchanged paintwork and also gone for a spin, and that has released what was Western, Sharples and Edos on through, and well, as they make the way back up to speed, here they go once again, but Alex Hill tucking in behind this time and not trying to make it too wide into Nord Curve, as they decide to settle their differences for a brief moment. Meanwhile, we look to Rob Zelby, who right now the UKSimRacing Stuart driver has teammate and Lever attached to the rear of him as they make the way on down the parabolic curve, and as they do, they have three Saunders just in front. They're trying to stay with the elite driver for now. But in terms of battles in class that are unfolding, let's talk a little bit more about those. Well, we do have Nicholas Rice and Lee King-Magee, the two Pro drivers, a long way down the field and through retrospective incidents or penalties, and as they make the way to the braking zone here, we ride aboard with Rice, and you can see King-Magee looking up the inside of West Simon Hartley as they come through turn number 2 into 3-4 they go, and Rice had a back out there. Meanwhile, it's Hartley who stays clear of King-Magee, and now it's going to be Rice who tucks into the toe here, tries to use the BMW to pull himself along, so he hasn't got the speed compared to the BMW in terms of getting up through the gearbox, and that is the delta of the two cars. In the fact that King-Magee in an equal car can make his way through, but Rice at the end, using the experience, knowing how well he can brake in the Ferrari, all the way on the inside there, a key move, and enables him to stay with the Pro Championship leader as they make the way up towards turn number 7. As they do smooth moves to those drivers. Meanwhile, we look back into the AM class and some more fighting here, and this is Petec GT2's James Bostock into 66 as he makes his way through turn number 11. He's got the company of James Conley behind him. They're fighting for P4 in the AM class, and well, Bostock last time at Daytona at one moment racing for a podium finish. He's still got the podium positions in his sides with Jack Barker and Matt Edmondson just in front right now. They're P2, P3 respectively, but this AM battle is absolutely pushing on here, and meanwhile Neil Smith has just run away with the AM lead. He's further up the road, and Will Smith not looking back. He's 7 seconds clear, and well, who who can blame him? If he can run away with this, it will be the first time we see Neil Swift take a win in the GT3 league in his career, given the fact back in what was a season 11, if my memory serves me correctly. He came very close multiple times, but it never quite paid off. But the head of this quartet of AM drivers is the Ford GT, the privateer of Jack Barker in the newly liveried machine. Indeed, running a different paint spec compared to Daytona. The livery wasn't quite ready for the United States, but it's ready here in Germany, and right now putting his faith in the car that's got some damage on it, I think, for the open lap instant. But right now Barker keeping his head down and trying to use the Ford GT speed, but also the fact he is quite the boat in terms of how it handles in order to keep what is Edmondson behind, albeit Prati parking it on Apex there at turn number 6. Definitely struggling with the low speed cars. You'd expect that from the Ford GT, given the way it's set up for the speed first and foremost, as he makes his way into turn 7 and 8. Well, I caught up with him in the build-up to today after his absolutely brilliant, highly enthusiastic interview, it must be said, last time at Daytona. He was saying to me about the fact he's really had to redial in the setup of the car because nothing was working in this Ford GT at the start of this week when he went with his baseline setup, and therefore running a completely different setup today. Well, he's making it work so far, but as they make the way on towards what will be at turn number 12, meanwhile we do cut back up to the elite class here, and well, Helmut Gonzalez and what is Jack Taylor still nose to tail in their fight for P6. The top 5 have broken away to a second now in terms of Shilcock being further up the road with Joe Tartus in company as well, but it does look as though, in fact, that gap, let's just give you an update on that. The correct update is 3.5 seconds from Gonzalez to Joe Tartus, and then a further second to Shilcock. So the top 4 have started to break away from Joe Tartus, but in turn Neate, Sobreiro and Armstrong have dropped Shilcock to a degree. So it does look as though here we're starting to see the separation of the top 7 elite drivers. Eric Rosa, meanwhile, in the number 1 BMW M4, the elite driver, of course, defending champion in season 11's elite class. Well, right now, the Norwegian driver here looking for a little bit more momentum, albeit he's got to find his way past Joshua Brad. But then again, the TE Supersport driver absolutely demonstrates the right way. He's leading in the pro class here, put it on pole, and right now comfortably at the head of what is said class. As our drivers make the way on through and up towards turn at number 8. Meanwhile, this is Chris Round fighting side by side with none other than Ryan Davies, and well, he's your leader in the Pro class this round, fighting with what is on second place. Pro driver here, Davies goes on through on the inside and brings it together. Lovely move there from Ryan Davies. Why is this important? Well, in the fact it's a push round back towards Constable after he was building a bit of a gap to Constable. But you can see there, Chris Constable now a bit closer as a result. Mark Collicott started to emerge behind them as well. So the 2 prime leaders, I think, are going to end up fighting with the pros just as much as they are going to be fighting one another at this point in the race. And well, for Round, he's got to try and make some tactical decisions, which is to try and not let Collicott go in a manner that's going to cost him time. And indeed, he'll want Collicott to pass Constable and hopefully cost Constable a lot of time and force the gap open. You've got to be very tactical in this multi-class race when it's driver classes rather than machine classes, and right now it's not working out for Round. Indeed, he's being made to push the cars. You can see Collicott there again, pulling out the toe down the start finish straight, saying, I think to Constable, look, I'm here behind you, I'm not racing you, let me go. And I think the more and more he does this, in the end, Constable's got to make a conscious decision. Does he let it go or not? Well, here comes Collicott. He's going to force the decision on Constable. Constable stays wide, going into turn 2 into Parabolica, as they made the way out to the right hand, into the double left they go. And again, Collicott looking up the inside, trying to use the spear brakes of the Porsche, but he hasn't got the leverage, and that is costing him the time as they make the way on down towards turn at number 6. But as they do so, meanwhile, looking for these guys to a bit further down the road, we look back to Guy Kyliel, the wrong stuff driver in the number 17, and right now this is the fight of 5 amps for what is the run from P6 to P10 in the class, albeit here's P45 through to P49 overall. And as they race on here going into Nord Curve, right now Kyliel trying to stay close to Andy Skinner, and well, as they make the way in towards turn number 2, a quick mention here to Andrew Skinner, in the fact running a special livery here, the TE corporate driver this weekend in support of Cancer Research UK, I do believe, on the side of the car. And you may remember back in what was season 11, we made a special mention to the fact that Skinner and the TE corporate team were all running liveries in tribute of Cancer Research and to raise awareness for cancer, and that is in reference to Andrew's good friend who at the time was suffering from cancer and was going for operations to try and resolve the cancer, and I do believe they have been able to clear it as a result. The cancer has definitely been reeled back considerably, so therefore they were to run the livery on the car once again here in honour of Andy Skinner's great friend, who is definitely on the upward path in the fight against cancer. And it's great to see the livery on the machine, and good luck to Andrew's friend and also to Andy today, indeed racing for a higher cause. But as he makes his way on through at turns 9 and 10. Will we come from the special livery machine to a little bit further behind Marvin Cruz here, who right now chased after Chris Bates as these two fight for P14 in the Chrome class, and were both affected by early incidents, particularly Cruz after that spin for the old dudes and cars drive, both in qualifying and also in the race. And as they made their way onto the braking zone here for turn number 12, coming on through, but from them we have a little bit of drama further up the road, and this is in the elite class. We've just had Aiden Neate find his way past David Sobreiro. I think it's a change of position for the Arnold Competition versus Arnold Competition big driver, and as they make their way in towards turn number 8, they've got Shilcock right behind. Was there an incident that predated this, or perhaps a mistake that was made from Sobreiro? We have a quick replay to find out. Well, this was in the run down towards turn number 6 onto the brakes they went, and as they did so, Sobreiro leaving the door wide open there for Neate to come through. So I think this is a tactical decision, perhaps the idea being that it'll be better for their race if they do swap places there, and the fact that Sobreiro might be perhaps struggling with a little bit of fuel saving right now, and therefore get himself a bit of levity going into the pit stop window of this race. And meanwhile, they are able to do it in a manner which meant that Shilcock could not get quite close enough in order to potentially sneak his way up the inside. And of course, when you're two drivers from the same team or sister teams and you want to work together on that, you've got to be conscious of the drivers around you. But as our top 4 makes its way onto the next lap, in fact top 5 there, with Jotata a bit further back in the absolute motorsport aceless machine. All right, now these guys continue to store away. Jotata's just trying to stay within the entrails of the slipstream of the top 4 as they make their way up towards the next braking zone. But as they head in towards turn number 2, and we're on your live pictures, we do look back from these guys a bit further down the order, and this is none other than Gavin Gardner for Next Gen Racing, who's at the back of a long line of cars here, all close together, with Reece Saunders at the head of it. And right now, this is the run for P15 through to P19, and it's a whole medley of elite driver Saunders ahead of Rob Selby and then level. Selby's looking around the outside here. Saunders not on the pace, and right now the prime driver eager to make some more progress, so they go side by side to turn number 2. And as they make their way from the right in towards the left, once they come on through, it's going to be a drag race all the way down towards turn number 6 they go, and Saunders right now on the charge here as they head through the left-hander. But the problem is that Porsche hasn't got the speed in the long term. Look at the Ferrari, it's starting to get nose ahead, but Saunders does have the inside. He has the severe abrasions here, flash of lights there from Lever, trying to distract Saunders, trying to help his teammate. Oh, what is there? Selby out, and as they make their way through, Selby goes a bit deep. I'm not sure there's a rub between the two drivers, but Rob Selby overcooking the braking zone. He's been turned on exit, and I'm not quite sure he's been in contact with, but I believe there's been a bit of contact with the UKSimRacing Stewart driver, and was an attempt around the outside. He spins there in frustration. The car's traction control not stopping him from going around, and the number 57 driver, they're losing all the places in the space of one corner. He drops all the way back behind the top 5 and battle, and that is a painful loss for the 57 driver from Britain, as Riday's got it all to do again. And goodness me, gaining 1 or 2 places at the Hockenheimring can take a whole 60 minutes, let alone regaining 15. As he makes his way on through turns 9 and 10, he'll get his head down. He's got Steiner Sani right behind him, and Sani is a class rival for P6 now. Rob Selby's running in, and as they make the way in towards what is turn number 11 here, coming through, Selby going wide. I think that's overheating the tyres here. Sani makes the move, or he's going to try to, and as they go side by side through the left-hander, where you can see there Sani staying higher, but he can't quite find a way around it, even though using the camera of the road to bury the BMW and get the throttle in. Rob Selby defends the position and defends it well when all is said and done. And we take a look back to what happened to Rob Selby only moments ago, coming into the hairpin. Well, this was under braking, battling with Saunders. A small rub between the two of them sends Selby slightly astray, but he catches it as they come out of the corner. Goodness me, just a bit too much steering lock there with the power going down. Spins himself his own accord by looks of things, and then a small tap round from what would have been, I believe, the car of Killer Ramadan, who was in the wrong place at the right time to give Selby a little bit of a further push. I think there'll be a racing incident between them, and well, with that, Rob Selby definitely feeling the pain of trying to go for that move versus Saunders. And as we return to your live pictures, the question we've had fed through from the Twitch chat of Ryan Moles. Good evening to you, Ryan. I hope you're doing well. Was with regards to the track temperatures. Well, we will bring those up on screen for you very shortly. And here they are on the right hand side. As you can see, ambient 21 degrees centigrade, track at the moment 24 degrees centigrade. And you expect that track temperature to go up little by little, given the fact it's gone up by 3 degrees centigrade since qualifying. And that's because we've got all our drivers out of the circuit, laying down the rubber and laying down the heat as well. And right now, the circuit, very comfortable circuit, nice temperature to it, and that is only going to give our drivers even more motivation to push harder and harder as they roar their way on through. But as they do, we say hello to Ryan Walker in the YouTube chat. Good evening to you, Ryan. I hope you're doing well. And as our drivers make the way on through in towards what will be the closing stages of the 20th minute of racing, which definitely has been an entertaining opening 20 minutes all the right reasons, and then some that perhaps we didn't want to see, such as the opening lap incident which separated the field. But ever since that, things have calmed down and all the drivers are getting on with the racing, and that is something we're all here for, as we do see Conor Craven right now looking for a ride on Casper Tunstead, the P37 overall, but P9 prime driver here. Well, he definitely did have a good qualifying session, but things have gone a little bit backwards since the start of the race, being right in the centre of what was the open lap incident. But right now the Englishman finding his way on through it in the Audi R8. When he comes on through the right-hander turn at number 15, he'll be feeling as though his chances now are going to lie just as much on strategy as it will with regards to race pace. Speaking of strategy, we haven't seen anybody so far go for what would be, we do believe, their one pit stop for today. Although saying that, actually let me correct myself in the fact we may have had one or two drivers that make an early pit stop. In fact, Daniel Pace has made a pit stop already. He's down at P34, and it was a very long pit stop in that, so I'm not sure whether we can read too much into it. In the fact, stationary time was the best part of, I do believe, 1 minute 23, and I've actually just had it fed through to me that Daniel Pace started from the pit lane, and that's the data we're getting with regards to when he pitted, so we have to rule that Pace, but nobody yet has made their strategic pit stop. But meanwhile, speaking of tactical battling, here's Cameron Gardner going side by side with Reece Saunders in towards turn number 8, and as they come on through into 9-10 they go. Gardner on the inside there through 10, Saunders out of position, and Khalid Ramadan is going to put his nose into where Saunders would argue it doesn't belong, but Ramadan says it does belong indeed, and as they make their way towards turn number 11, the Somsport driver makes a brilliant move to capitalise on what was already some fantastic battling between Gardner and Saunders, and moves up into P17. It's important for him because it puts him a place clear of Kasper Brotner, who's now caught behind Saunders, and the old dudes in cars driver will be thinking, right, I've now got the horrible task of trying to find my way past the elite driver who's still building up pace as well. And as Brotner makes his way through turns 15 and 16, we ride aboard the dashboard here of the Danishman as the Porsche flat 6 roars up through the gears, heading upwards of 9,000 RPM. But right now, as the number 11 driver comes on through into turn number 1, we can see the gap starting to open up here, and as he makes his way through the right hander, we do have a pit stop for Alex Hill, albeit Alex Hill much further down the order, and therefore is it a strategic pit stop? Well, we are into the effective pit window now. In terms of the fact we normally would see our pit stops anywhere around from the 20th minute, or the 21st minute we should say, all the way through to sometimes what would be the 50th to 55th minute, so it could open up the race there even more. And whoever goes for an undercut here and finds some breathing room out on circuit, they may just be able to give themselves plenty of opportunity to gain a place where others continue to battle. But we are now in pit stop territory, but who will be the drivers who go for the gamble? They decide to pit so early in order to offset the field, but of course they come out in any traffic or come out towards the leaders who will essentially try to put them a lap down. That could prove costly and put them completely off the pace. But as the drivers have made the way on around there, also Alex Hill, as we have confirmation from GZ behind the Twitch chat, having to do repair work to the car due to the incident of the green flag procedure. The open lap incident we do keep referring to, which we had replays of earlier. So he'll be doing repair work on the car and trying to push on. But as the drivers have made the way on through roaring, all the drivers right now absolutely on a mission here to try and go a little bit longer on this open instead, including Kasper Brotner, albeit he's still got to find a way past Saunders, and it's the battle of the two Porsches. But from them, speaking of battles further up the road, this is the prime lead battle for P11 overall. It's Round versus Constable still, with Oldfield a little bit further behind, and separated Oldfield from them is none other Mark Collicott. But speaking of Simon Oldfield, there he is. He's fallen off the pace a little bit over the last 3-4 laps. In fact, that last lap, 3/10 over the pace of Brown and Constable, and I think the Team Badger still driver at this point will just be focusing on making sure he maintains this P3 in the prime class. I think that will still be a huge achievement for the number 2 driver, and something he'll give him a massive pound back. Indeed, the team will be actually jumping down up in joy in the pit lane after the race if he's able to bring it on home, just because the Brit today has really brought on a lot of pace compared to Daytona last week. And well, of course, the championship campaign is made up of multiple rounds, not just one, although one can be the highlight that does the difference between the championship win or alternatively you lose it out. But right now, this could be a highlight of the day. It's Conley battles with Barker on the right, Conley on the left, and as they make their way to turn number 2, Barker right now, he's going to be out on the wide, he's going to have the inside to turns 3 and 4, and here comes the Ford GT as he swings back to the inside. Conley now will try and hold the outside of the Parabolica curve, but look at the Ford GT go. Many of you remarked it, and right now the Ford is just roaring away as they make their way in towards turn number 6, on towards the braking zone they go. Conley's going to go really late on the brakes to make this happen. Barker leaves the door open now, and Conley sends it all the way on the inside. Barker turns in, Conley gets his starts, but he makes it and he gets it wrong. Conley goes round there and just get on the power with too much steering off, much like what we saw with Rob Selby earlier, and the UKSimRacing Mansell driver falls to their hairpin and goes around again. That hairpin catching out many a driver from UKSR today, and as he tries to bring it back together, he loses out versus Bostock and what is also, I do believe, a couple of drivers from other classes. But meanwhile, the big question is, where on earth is Matt Edmondson? And Edmondson, here he is. He was battling with Barker before all this happened. He's coming to the pits already. He's down to P50, but this is important. We are starting to see pit stops from drivers here, particularly in the lower classes and further down the field. And I wouldn't be surprised if this now starts to act as a little bit of a gauge for our drivers inside the top 20 in terms of when do you pit. Will mean, well, not thinking about pitting, but thinking about battling here. This is Andy Skinner versus Halsoy, as Chris Halsoy looks to go around the outside of the band into the inside of turn 8, and Halsoy will get it in the end as Skinner makes his way on down towards turn number 11. And as they do so, coming into the right hand and onwards towards turn at number 12, the Britain here for teasers for Cooper continues to challenge but knowing who he needs to race with rather than fighting with drivers of the other class. But as they head onwards and up towards what will be for them, lap number 16 shortly, a good point being raised by Ryan Moulton in the Twitch chat, which is the elites will be coming through the traffic soon, and that is what is going to make pitting even harder regardless of where you are on circuit, because you may just come out and be a lap down, or you may come out into lapping traffic, and either way that can cost you a lot of time in its own right, and therefore now the pit stop window becomes ever more constricted. But as the guys push off through, meanwhile we look to Stephen Andre Livingston as he does have on his inside Alex Millward, who again is continuing to try and recover his way through the field through an early spin or a couple of early instants from what we've had reported to us. Unfortunately we haven't been able to quite catch those to get a replay, but Millward makes his way on through turn number 4 and on to turn 5 and down towards 6 he goes. Right now the racing lab esports driver Stephen Andre Livingston just tucked in behind, and well, yet to take pit stop P30 in the Prime class, and it's definitely looking as though today is going to be a day of just looking to find some points out there and getting ready for the return after the season break. Albeit he has got some rivals in front, including Chris Bates, who is 3 places up the road from him, up in P42. So it's not as though Livingston's not good company, but he knows he's got his work cut out for him to make sure he can get to that company. It's been on Neil Jack here, battling now with Millward at the fence the inside into Mercedes Arena, and Millward here, you can understand if he might be mumbling under his breath a bit, why are they fighting me? We're not in the same class. Well, Millward definitely going to put on a demonstration today how many overtakes at every corner at the Hockenheimring, and he does it through turns 9 and 10 there as Neil Jack does a good defence, but Millward finds the pace. They make the way into towards Mobile 1 curve as they come through the right hander from them. Meanwhile, we look a little bit further up the order again, and now we look to Neil Smith, your AM leader, who is building quite the traffic jam behind him, of course, from other classes. He's around P19, and right behind him is Tom Weston, also John Eddowes, and Weston and Eddowes are fighting for P6 in the Pro class right now. So Smith keeping his head down and pushing on. Jack Barker in P26 is the second place AM driver, is in a similar situation, dealing with drivers of the Pro class. So the AMs right now are really starting to find themselves in a bit of a nip and tuck versus drivers of the Pro class, and it's not come to a place to be, it must be said, but still here, but you're these guys who's going to keep your head down and carry on the racing. Speaking of which, well, here goes Rob Zelby looking up the inside of Barker in towards the Spitzker hairpin, the hairpin that caught out Zelby about 5 laps ago. He's hoping it's not going to catch him out this time. Barker just stays clear, they get the power through, and will Barker there using all the width of the corner to stay safe and out of danger, and well, the pass is made between the two of them as they make the way in towards turn number 7, but coming back to Weston versus Eddowes, they make the way in towards Mobile 1, and as they head into the stadium section, Weston's so close right now to the back of Smith, but Eddowes being, well, ever closer, and Weston under huge pressure, being forced to take action. Eddowes looks around the outside. It's going to be brave for the Toyota driver to go outside to inside from 13, into 14 he goes, and as he does so, into Sud curve, Weston's on the outside, goes deep, and John Eddowes forces the door open, but look at that, Weston cuts back and goes straight into the pits there, so Weston keeping his options open, and that's a very last minute call into the pits. I think Eddowes is going to be wondering, oh goodness me, he's just simply outfoxed me into the pits. Brilliant race between the two, and Weston to react like that. Weston knows right now he needs some space in circuit, and look at that circuit map right now, particularly the bottom portion of it. We have got the best part of what is about 35 of our 57 car field running through the stadium section up towards where it's turns 1 and 2. That goes to show how tight this field is, and as our drive make the way around, the challenge will be, of course, in the fact you don't want to come out in amongst that, you want to be in clear air, and as they make the way on through, Eddowes right now, he's got Peter Cox, old friend, old rival of course, dating back to season 8 where they battled for the Pro Championship. It went the way of Eddowes in the end by a small margin, one of the smallest margins we've ever seen the championship go in the UKSimRacing GT3 League's history. But right now Cox again firmly re-established with his old friend and rival, and I think it's going to be Eddowes looking at his rearview mirror and noticing that he has another BMW, and right now it's reigniting the old flames, but a swing to the inside from Eddowes here, He wants to get past Neil Smith, the AM leader. Smith goes a bit deep into Mercedes, but as they make over 9 and 10, remember it switches back into the right-hander at 10, and Smith can make himself nice and obstinately wide here. Bedo says no, can do, thank you, as they drag race their way past the stationary camera. Here comes Peter Cox as well, but I don't think he was able to get alongside there into the braking zone for Melbourne 1, and right now Cox is made to wait the Destino Motorsports driver, who knows he needs to get back after Eros immediately, but Smith shuts the door into 12. Cox had a little bit of wobble there on the apex curb. I believe he had to back out there to avoid contact with the rear of Smith's car, and as they make their way through 13 and 14, the 68 driver here just cannot get past Smith like Eros can, and that is going to prove costly. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, a driver who we haven't talked about too much, Matthew Whitefoot, as the 104 driver makes his way out turn number 6, right now pushing onwards in a very comfortable and peaceful P5 in the prime class. He's chased after the pros in front of him as sharp as Cox and Edos, with Smith intervening in between. But right now the gap is 12.7 seconds to Rob Selby. He could be looking for his first top 5 of the season here, the 104 driver, and he has previously been a race winner in the AM class in the GT3 league, so he's got the experience there, and he'll be looking to try and capitalise on it. But meanwhile, as we look from Matt Whitefoot, 2 drivers a little bit further down the order, drives out of sync now due to pit stops. We look to Matt Edmondson, and well, Edmondson might be onto something here, ladies and gentlemen, because keep in mind, when he came into the pits, he was running P3 in the AM class behind Jack Barker, and he did have close behind him at the time what was none other, than the charge in of what was, oh goodness me, I do believe at James Bostock and also a couple other rivals. But right now Edmondson is ahead of Barker after the pit stop. He's up to P5 in the AM class. He's still got places to gain with Guy Kylie coming in. We've then got Neil Jack just up the road, who also needs to take a pit stop. John Doble, James Bostock, and last but not least Neil Smith. Could this be Edmondson making strategy work, much like he did at Indianapolis in what was the GT3 GTP League at Season 1? And could he leap his way into victory in the AM class? We'll have to wait and see. But other drivers that made the way on through, we're hearing there's been quite the incident for Cy Hartley, which has seen had to be towed to the pits quite recently, and we have a replay as to what happened for the Tiki Supersport driver. Oh, goodness me, that's coming out of Mobile 1, going a bit wide. I think the rear left tyre just going to what was the gravel there and sending the car spiralling towards the wall, and the Tiki Supersport car Marte driver having to be towed in, and that will be a broken front right suspension. I suspect the engine as well will not be in the best state, and Cy Hartley losing out there in a corner where it's so easy to get it wrong when you're pushing to the maximum. But where it's gone wrong for him, others will rise as a result. But he's currently in the pit lane, repair work ongoing on the car after the tow time, and well, if that fast repair does get played into effect, it will be, and it's going to be a very quick repair. Albeit he's leaving the pit lane now, so he's back out there, but he's down to P54 from what we understand. But as they make the way on through, we say hello to my guy Si there in the Twitch chat. Good evening to you, Si. I hope you're doing well. And as our drivers roll on through, we say hello to Haggis Hunter, also who says evening in the Twitch chat. As they all head on towards what will be the second half of this race. We are now 32.5 minutes in. We've still got the best part of 27.5 minutes plus the final lap to go. We are in the midst of pit stops. If you're in the part of the field outside the top 20 for the most part, and this is where we're now starting to see the exchange of places. Also, we've had some early pit stops in the elite class, from particularly Daniel Shilcock, the GT3 driver, the Briton, making his way through turns 9 and 10. And as he does so here, right now, has he picked the right time to pit, or has he cost himself time, given the fact that he's coming out in amongst the number of drivers he's going to be battling with, including Khalid Ramadan, who we see there in the rear of your picture. And as they make their way under braking in towards turn number 12, we still got the Track 6 Racing driver, I think, definitely feeling the pinch with regards to the fact he's got to fight his way through the order and hope he doesn't lose too much more time. He's got Gavin Gardner just in front of him as well after Alan Lever, and that will mean he's going to have to pass Gardner on the circuit, who's yet to take a pit stop, unless Gardner decides to defect his way into the pit lane. You would imagine that Gardner might be considering doing that in the next 7 minutes or so, given the fact we are running out of race time and that pit window is gradually heading towards closure. But keep in mind, depending on the circuit, we have seen pit stops in the GT3 League go as late sometimes of what has been at the 53rd minute in the sprint races. And right now Shilcock will be hoping that he can just gradually pick his way past his rival, because he is the highest placed driver on this overall field who has taken a pit stop step. He's waiting for everyone in front of him to pit, and where he fits into that mix is the big question. But as he heads on down through Parabolica, meanwhile we look back to Casper Brotner, who continues to chase after Khalid Ramadan, the old Clinton Cars black driver, right now chasing after the Soft Sport machine, and was ahead in towards the split scare here. Both of them knowing the pit stop's got to come at some point, but right now Brotner definitely building on Ramadan and picking up the time each and every lap. It's a couple of attempts a lap, and the Danishman, I think, feeling the confidence displaying. If he can't do it on the circuit, he may just be able to do it in the pit lane soon. But he comes through the right and in towards the left-hander. Onto the brakes they both go, and it was number 11 driver does so. More changes further in the AM class, including including what has been a pit stop for Andy Skinner, who's come out behind Jack Barker, I do believe. So therefore there's a change there. Meanwhile, new race leader in this race. You can see a car inside John Davis respecting blue flags and run down towards Mobile 1 curve. New race leader in the form of Geraldo Stratatis, who carries on onto what is a 22nd lap on his first stint ahead of Helder Gonçalves. Jack Taylor also coming through. Meanwhile, on large competition, they're furiously working the pit lane all together. That's Armstrong coming down the Jags. Also there, David Sobreiro and Aiden Neate. They leave the pit lane in formation, but there's a change of position, and that is going to be Aiden Neate, who jumps ahead of what is a Sobreiro, albeit I think Neate was ahead of Sobreiro before the pits in fact there, so they return to their original positions. But look at the gapping of the field here, and Sobreiro in particular coming out with multiple cars between himself and his teammates, so that's going to cost him time. Whilst they may be teammates, they're also racing for their own drivers' championships, of course, but it does mean that with them right now, they've got quite a bit of traffic separated out, and that may cost them the ability to fuel save a group. But it is looking as though on competition are on course for a 1, 2, 3 here today, and well, it'll be the first time we have seen that in a long time in the UKSimRacing GT3 League. A team completely locking out the podium overall or in its class. But as they head in towards turn number 6, well, from them we do look to a bit further down the order to Rhys Saunders, who right now trying to chase after Rob Armstrong. Saunders has taken his pit stop, it should be pointed out, so now he is fighting for positions all the way to checker flag, and as he makes his way on through turns 3 and 4, tucked in very tight to the rear of the Mercedes of Armstrong, but that Mercedes as well, the overspeed here as they roar their way on down the Parabolica curve, and now towards Spitsker. You can see Armstrong having to go defensive for UKSimRacing Badsall, and meanwhile Saunders going to look to the outside. Armstrong breaks nice and early, lifts off in fact, and lets Saunders go at 9. They're not in the same race in terms of their strategies, albeit Saunders goes very deep though, the overspeed I think catching them out, and Armstrong backs off again, but doesn't want to lose any more time, so he tucks in nice and closely, and then they do settle their differences, but Saunders almost catching himself out given the overspeed of the toe of the Mercedes. But Armstrong here knowing that his race is with Jeff Griffiths, who is a bit further back. They're separated by 6.3 seconds, and the visible racing driver right now in the number 86 still giving chase, but not close enough to start to think about setting up a move, and he'll be hoping the time comes for him towards the end of the hour. But he makes his way on around for the right-hander. A little bit of connectivity issues there for Cy Hartley. Hopefully that's not a sign of something epidemic in the car. And as he makes his way on around, all the drivers do here. Well, we've got more pit stops playing out. We've got Chris Constable, Cameron Gardner and Casper Bronner into the pits. And the reason why Constable coming in is quite a bit of intrigue is because he was chasing after this man, Chris Round, the leader of the Prime class. They were separated and have been separated all race by less than a second. But Round staying out, Constable coming in. Now, is that the right call? Well, I can tell you he's come out in P3 and he has bought himself a bit of breathing room to Darren Sharples, or Daz Sharples, his 9-2 colleagues, in terms of the fact they've got 3 seconds between the two of them, so it may have worked out. But Round has also got James Armstrong looking up his inside here into turn 7, the elite leader, before we all saw the pit stop start to play out. So right now, Round I think has to be very tactical as he lets Armstrong go through 7 into 8, doesn't really lose any time as the Leroy Jenkins driver, but he's going to be worried, I think, in the fact that right now he's got to keep up the pace as they make the way on through. We can see that driver moving aside. That's got a crave in respect to the blue flags and moving aside before Mobile 1 curve, but that is also going to mean they lose a bit of lap time there, but it is to be expected as they head in towards turn number 12, and as they do, Craven goes nice and high and lets on through as well none other than Aiden Neate, and Neate right now trying to stay with Armstrong. Remember, whilst they are teammates, they've got a race going on between them, and now for Neate, he's looking to try and find a way back versus Armstrong to make sure it's not the James Armstrong show in terms of that front row podium. But as they make the way out of the right hand on towards the next lap they go. Meanwhile, further behind we also do see what is David Sobreiro finding his way on past, I do believe, at James Bostock, and next up will be for him what will be the car on. He hasn't passed Bostock there, we do apologise. If we look at the past Bostock shortly, he did previously at past what was Craven. In fact, he's got Craven in front there, so I believe as Stroh came into the pits, in fact, when we get our facts and figures right, but Sobreiro makes his way up past Bostock. Bostock right now keeping his head down and trying to chase after some AM positions, and well, for Bostock in particular, he's currently P7, and his target will be James Connolly, who is the best part of what is 10 seconds up the road from him. But from these guys, we look to Tom Weston here, who's still racing and racing hard as he goes after Alex Hill. These two have made pit stops, will be very different races. For Hill, it was a bit of an early incident and having some fast repair work, so he's had a very early pit stop. Weston, meanwhile, has only recently pitted, albeit for Weston it's been a difficult mid-section of the race, but an instant cost him a number of places. But both drivers here in 9, they've got a lot of pace in the car, but they're not exactly where they should be right now. As meanwhile, we have had Jack Taylor in to the pits, and we're just waiting to see where he comes out in the order. As we're drives head on through here. Well, we've got not long left in terms of racing, but with all the pit stops we've seen so far, we're still waiting to see when our leaders in a good number of the classes will decide to come on into the pits. And as Weston chases after Hill still, one of the ones we have got the big question mark on is Neil Smith, your AM leader, who is 4 seconds clear of John Doble. But keeping in mind that Smith, in fact, let's correct ourselves there, Smith has just pitted, so that's why he's lost a lot of time. And Smith right now has come back out your leader in the AM class, and Neil Smith is on course here for a comfortable win in the AM class. Behind him is John Doble, but keep in mind that John Doble is P2 and not yet taking a pit stop in the AM class. He's one of the last drivers in the AM class to pit, so therefore he's out of position right now, much like Andy Skinner. But I think they're both going as long as possible in order to try and gain places via the overcut, or what just used to be known as being called as going long. But as Doble makes his way in towards turn number 8, he'll be just keeping the faith in the strategy here and hoping some places can come to him. But from him, we look back to Brian Davies, who has got what is the company of James Armstrong right behind Davies. You get to pit, and he goes Josh Pratt, your race leader, as we look at those overall standings. And there you can see your top 35, 2 pros on P1, P2 right now for TG Simsport. But again, they have got to pit, so they'll lose that lead as up the inside of Davies goes Armstrong. You can see James Conley there taking his time into the corner 9. He's got 2 lead lap drives, 3 lead lap drives coming his way, and doesn't want to get in their way whatsoever. But as they make their way into Mercedes, Davies losing the place there, and now Neate behind, closing up little by little and eager to get close to Armstrong. And Davies just thinking about the run to P2 and making sure to make it a 1-2 in the pro class for TG Simsport today. Meanwhile, Josh Pratt in a very comfortable lead right now. The TG Simsport corporate driver 15 seconds clear of the rising pack of elites who've already pitted. But for him, it just simply is about getting the car to the end of this stint and then bringing it on home for what will be the final stint of the day as he comes into the pits on call. And the TG Simsport corporate driver will relinquish the lead, but he'll be very happy to have led a lap here at the Hockenheimring overall, not just in class. And as he goes on through, it'll then be James Armstrong who takes the lead back for unknowledge competition and makes his way in to what will be approximately another 10 laps of racing. As he makes his way on around here, from him we do look to a bit further down the order once again, and we look back to where's your class standings positions. And well, in particular, we do look to when it's Peter Cox right now chasing after John Eddowes, albeit the gap between the two of them 5 seconds, and I believe that has come about from the fact that there just has the traffic has not fallen favourably for Cox. Keep in mind that Eddowes and Cox have yet to pit, and well, as soon as I say that, Cox makes his way into the pit lane, so does Eddowes. So they finally fall back into the sequence, and as they come on down pit lane, it means that Mark Collicott will make his way on through here to take what will most likely be P3 back in the pro class, because Ryan Davies is leaving the pit lane right now. Joshua Pratt is still out there, has taken his pit stop, so therefore it does mean that the lead 3 at the pro class are confirmed now in strategy, and it just comes down to them bringing it to the finish. But meanwhile, we are waiting to see where Eddowes comes out of all of this. He leaves his pit box and makes his way down the pit lane. Khalid Ramadan makes his way on through, so Eddowes is going to fall quite a way down. But as the Somsport driver heads up towards turn number 2, well, meanwhile, Casper Rotner comes on through, and then here is John Eddowes. So in the end, he comes back out P7 ahead of Alex Hill and Tom Weston. And well, meanwhile, Peter Cox has come right onto the back of the battle of Hill and Weston, so he might have an opportunity here to go hunting for P8 in the pro class. But I think he'll be a little bit disappointed he's not close enough to reignite that rivalry with Eddowes even further. But as they make the way through turns 2, 3 and 4, meanwhile, as many of you are remarking on Neil Smith absolutely smashing it in the AM class, using the words there of Tommy Box in the Twitch chat, even to you, Tommy Box. Meanwhile, here comes King-Magee up the inside of what is their Steinhaus Sally. Another place to be gained for the P33, now P32 overall, and what is P14 pro driver. Your championship leader going into today after win at Daytona, with the UKSimRacing UK driving to start from the back of the grid due to a qualifying ban from a penalty for round number 1. And the Britain right now, well, knowing that today is all about damage limitation, and Nicholas Rice also trying to take the same approach here as he's been following King-Magee all race. Looks up the inside there and Sally sees what's coming, but Rice gets it wrong and the car goes round, and the Ferrari, that's the 3rd Ferrari we've seen go spinning coming out of Spitzer Kerr hairpin. It just seems as though it's the Ferrari 296 that just do not like the hairpin, particularly on tight steering lock, and trying to get the power down. And will Rice setting his enthusiasm, gets himself back up to speed, but doesn't need 2 spins to do it. He only needs the 1. And Destino Motorsports driver doesn't lose any class positions. He stays P15 in class in the pro class, but he loses plenty of positions overall, and now his work's made even harder. But meanwhile, Daniel Page will look in his rearview mirror and thinking, oh goodness me, I've now got King-Magee right behind me. And as they make their way in towards turn number 12, we ride and look back from the rear here of the old duty cars black driver, the number 8 Portuguese, as he makes his way up towards turn number 15. And as he does so, working keep King-Magee behind him, it's going to be a tough task task to do over the remaining 16 minutes. And right now, as they roll away through the right hand, I can tell you he's trying to hold off the fastest driver in the Pro class here as they make their way up towards turn number 1. Onto lap number 27 they go, as our leaders meanwhile going towards the end of said lap was Hayes heads through turn 1, bouncing his way over the apex curve there, and now Magee just looking up for an opportunity into turn 2. He'll know, however, he doesn't need to go for it here, so he needs to run from turn 2 all the way up towards turn 6 is where the BMW M4 strength lies in terms of straight line speed. All he needs to do is stay within a couple of attempts and then he can outrun his rival as they head up towards what will be the next hairpin. Well, the gap looks a little bit too large at the moment, and Hayes does have the toe at Pimley at a distance, but here comes the BMW M4. It moves closer and closer. 2 tenths is the gap. Will King-Magee look for the move? No, he does not. He waits behind as they make their way on through it. Meanwhile, Ollie Pimley, we hope that Pace can just simply focus more on battling behind and not put Pimley under any more pressure. But meanwhile, speaking of pressure, Alex Millward on pressure still to try and carve his way up to P26. Despite the setbacks, he has made his way into the top half of this grid now. And as the effect simulation drive charges on, well, he's looking to a P11 here in the elite class, given that Reece Saunders is P10, or Gavin Gardner's now, as in fact Gardner's been involved in a major incident. Oh, goodness me, and that is on pit lane exit. So we're back pit lane entry as we get our vocabulary right. And well, for Gavin Gardner, I'm not quite sure what's happened, but he is coming down the pit lane, and that's going to be another pit stop for him, surely. This will be a forced one. Maybe it's just going to end up being a drive through. But Gavin Gardner with a nasty spin. What exactly happened? We take a look back. Making his way in towards turn 15. It looks like the rear of the car is going to let go here. In fact, no, it drops off the sausage curb coming out of 15, and that's what causes the rear of the Ferrari to slide loose, and Gardner in the end gets it off the road back onto the grass, and where he's locked into driving down the pit lane, he can't go back on himself, as otherwise it'd be an immediate disqualification for the race, given the automated racing rules on iRacing. So next gen racing driver goes into the pit, and that was his race over then and there, and I think deciding to retire from the race, given the fact that effectively he'd be out of the hunt. But well, Daniel Pace battling side by side here with King-Magee as they make the way on through turn number 4 up towards 5 and 6 they go, and as they make the way down, well, now it's going to be Pace versus Pimley versus King-Magee, 3-way fight as they make the way down towards the hairpin. You can see Pace on the inside, King-Magee tucked him right behind him. Pimley on the right. He's going to be free wide under braking here, but Pace is going to brake as late as he can. Pimley looks around the outside, but King-Magee's there to cover up the Symphony Esports driver. And as they all make their way through, power oversteer there for Pace. Causes King-Magee to have to snap the car to the inside, run out the corner. And he's going to get ahead of Pimley, or is he, as they front their way into Mercedes Arena. Still side by side. Pimley's not giving in here. He's showing that he's got a place on this grid just as much as everyone else. And as they make the way through the left, into the right they go. Pimley holding on here. It was a brilliant counter-attack battling as they roll off the corner and onwards towards turn number 11, and what it's cost them time versus the likes of Daz Sharples, who's only 7 seconds up the road. But for these guys right now, every point is worth making as we jump on board here with the UKSimRacing UK driver, who is trying to find his way past the rear-engine rear-wheel drive Porsche. He just cannot seem to find a way to knock down the defensive wall that Pimley is putting up. But as they head on through turn number 14 into 15, he can see King-Magee under brake. He gets so close into the corner. He's literally stripping meters out of his drive under braking, but the problem is he can get as close as he wants. If he can't get alongside, it's not going to be worth it. He takes a look to the inside, trying to get into Pimley's head, trying to get his rival to make an unforced error. And as they head on through the right-hander, onwards they go towards turn number 2. Well, no errors being made there from Pimley, and Pimley holding on. And again, that Porsche so strong under braking into these hairpin corners. That is where Pimley's able to really come back at King-Magee onto the trail braking zones. That seems to be where the UKSimRacing UK driver just feels a lot more confident in how the car flows from apex to apex as they drag race their way through the parabolic curve once again. Well, for these guys, it may only be a battle of a P12 in the pro class, but there's points awarded for every position in the class, and that's why you've got to fight your way on through. And as they head in towards the hairpin, at this time, no change of position. As they head off towards turn at number 7. Meanwhile, we look back to the front of the field. Let's not forget the fact we've got a battle right at the front, and this is James Armstrong versus Aiden Neate as they head in towards what will be the split scare hairpin of what is for them the 30th time of asking. And as they head on down, Armstrong, of course, has been leading this race quite comfortably, but Neate has now closed back up. And will the Arnold competition drivers, both of the same team, not one from the sister outfit of Arnold competition Ping, as we see Sobreiro there having a bit of a moment, a bit of an altercation, I believe, with one of our drivers who's down a lap. Not quite sure who that was. I think it was one of the TE Sport cars. From what I can tell you is that Neate, meanwhile, really coming strong versus Armstrong and looking for an opportunity here to take the win. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the field, we have had a return to the pits for James Bostock, the Petec GP2 driver who was running inside the top 5 of the AMP class. It's gone very, very wrong for, and well, the question that you might be asking is what exactly happened to him after what is looking to be a strong race today. And we have a quick replay to explain. All good, it's here. Well, this is the aftermath, and it looks as though there's been some sort of shunt to the barrier. Turn number 8 there for the Petec GP2 driver. Immediately got it off the road and clear. So we can't quite bring you the full replay of what's happened. In fact, we haven't quite got that footage available from what it would seem. We can show you the aftermath there and explain why he had to be towed to the pits. Unfortunate for him, and perhaps third time will be the chance when we return to Suzuka in 2 weeks' time. He's shown a lot of pace in, definitely a contender for podiums, if not at least top 5 in the AMP class. But wasn't to be today. But as we come back to the battle for the overall and elite win, we'll need versus Armstrong. With Armstrong being your leader, the Audi drivers making the way on through the right and to the left there. Turns 2 into 3, 4. We'll need staying very close here. And Armstrong, I think, starting to struggle a little bit with tyre temperature. That rear left looking a little bit less grippy compared to Neate as they made the way out the corner. He may just be simply pushing a bit harder, but it does seem as zoning in a bit more of a comfortable zone right now as they head down into the turn 6 hairpin. And this time, gap standing on what is 3 attempts under braking, but in the end, Neate getting a bit too close to there, and the gap resettling at 4.5 attempts. Keep our eyes on that, but as they make the way in towards Mercedes, we also keep our eyes on this. And boy, it's a bit of a snake train, but let's dissect it for you. And at the front of this quartet is Jeff Griffiths, your P9 Prime driver, but behind him is Matt Edmondson, your P2 AM driver. And why this is important is because Edmondson, as we said earlier on strategy, by going for the undercut, was able to jump back into P2 ahead of Jack Barker. Well, if you discount Nicholas Rice, who is between Edmondson, you then have Barker there behind, and that is the fight for P2, P3 in the AM class, with right now the Ford GT driver just trying to find his way on back on through versus Rice. But as Rice comes on through, well, in turn he wants to try and cut his way past Edmondson, but the Destino Motorsports driver is finding it's easier said than done as they head in towards turn at number 1. We're going on through into the right hand here. You can see Barker forward and back again. The Ford GT stronger on the straight, car going wide, and as they do, well, that is a mistake from Jeff Griffiths, and well, Edmondson and Rice both doing well there to take evasive action. That's going to give Rice all the momentum he needs into turn number 2, and this could be the spark that ignites the flames here for the battle for the second spot of the AM podium. Because as Rice makes his way on through turn 2, 3 and 4, he gets ahead of Edmondson, and Edmondson now, he's going to have the worry of what is a very hungry Ford GT, not just in terms of his first for fuel, but also his first for places, and they make the way up towards turn number 6, and as they roll the way in towards the next braking zone, you can see Edmondson right now just simply starting offline into the braking zone, making sure to make it clear he's going to defend this, but meanwhile Barker in turn right there and waiting to go on the attack. They draw their way in towards turn at number 7 right now. Objects may appear closer than they seem in rear view mirrors for Edmondson, but in this camera you're seeing they're as close as that in real life as they made their way down in towards turn number 8, and as they roll them through the left hand and up towards turns 9 and 10. Well, from them we look back up to John Eddowes here, who's got the company of Casper Brotner for P5 in the Pro class as they come through turn at number 1, the Nord curve there, seemingly favouring Eddowes, who gets a much smoother transition off the apex, gains a temp as a result of it. But as they head in towards the next braking zone for turn at number 2, this may be where we see a bit of a switch in the positions coming on through the right, but from them we do have a bit of a dramatic turn of events as we got a car off the road, and that's Chris Constable, who was running P2 in the Prime class, has fallen by the wayside there through Parabolica curve, and he's dropped down to P4. That could be a drive to the pits there, given the state of that Audi. If so, that is going to be heartbreak for Destino Motorsports, the driver who was keeping what was Chris Round honest every step of the way in this race, and it's all gone wrong for Chris Constable. But what exactly happened? Here's the replay. So he made his way out of 4 and on towards 5, goes a bit wide onto the grass, a little bit too eager with the throttle pedal and loose with the steering, and Chris Constable to the wall there, and the bridge. And it's such an easy mistake to make, particularly in the late stage of the race when tyre life is not at a premium anymore. And well, Chris Constable finding his way now down the order, but can he keep it alive with 6.5 minutes plus the final lap of this race to go to finish inside the top 5 of the Prime class? We'll have to see here, but that does mean that Chris Round has been released effectively with a 4-second gap to second place driver Simon Oldfield. Well, here is Oldfield, the Team Badger Seal driver, who's just keeping his head down right now and looking to bring on home the runner-up spot in at the Prime class. And I don't think he's going to quite believe it if he does bring this home right now, as from him you then have Alan Lever, who is hounding, he is hustling and he is trying to find a way to get close to Simon Oldfield. The gap between them is 5 seconds, and Lever is closing at a 10th or 2 a lap, but he needs more than that. There's not enough laps left in the day if he wants to make this happen, and the UKSimRacing Stuart driver may end up having to take the back step of the podium once again, the third step, much like a Daytona. But we'll have to see what the 657 driver's got in store, and again, it's not over until that checkered flag falls, so let's not write anything out of the conundrum yet, ladies and gentlemen. We know about late lap drama here in the UKSimRacing GT3 League. We've seen it plenty of seasons recently, and as they make the way on around here, all drivers right now have bated breath, as will Daz Sharp was here on the inside. He squeezed the apex by AM leader Neil Smith, and well, I can tell you one thing, Smith, he might be leading the AM class by the best part of 20 seconds, but he's not afraid to get his elbows out versus some of his other class peers. Albeit I have to wonder here for the 304 driver whether it might be wiser just to back off and let this go. We have seen Smith on a number of occasions be in attacking distance or win, only to lose it for a late error. And as they make the way in towards turn number 6, where he's going to have Tunstead right away from him as Rob Selby and Sharp was battle with him, but there you can see what was Sharp was getting a pull around the inside of the corner, and Rob Selby now looking onto the inside of turn number 7 through the cutback, and as they do, where it's going to be the fight of the Prime versus the Pro, as Mill, the AM leader, is allowed to hold his position for now. But again, I would imagine here all three drivers now don't want to trip over one another. They're all fighting for their respective positions. So they'll be for a P5 in the Prime class, not what he wanted today, given the fact he was potential cause for a podium, but he'll be taking that P5 with both arms wide open when all is said and done. And Sharp wants to make more progress versus Casper Tunstead, but right now holding on to P11 in the Pro class. But as they come on through turn at number 12, from them we look back to your overall leaders, Armstrong versus Neate. It still rages on here. They've got a long line of traffic in front of them as well. This is not what they want to see, but certainly if you're James Armstrong with 4 minutes left on the clock, you've got cars that are all fighting for position, and one driver just in front of you immediately who just wants to gain more overall positions in the form of King-Magee. And well, for King-Magee, he's got to think about what does he do in this situation. Does he let it go, or does he dig in and try and carve his way past the AMs? Well, Armstrong, I think, is going to make a decision for him soon by getting very close as they make their way through the corners. And Barker, you can see the 4GT struggling out of the corners. It just hasn't got the speed. King-Magee immediately backs off there and lets Armstrong and Neate go. And now Barker's going to think about the same thing. You can understand, though, from the AM driver's perspective, he wants to go hunting after that P2, but Armstrong there decides it for him, ducks the inside as Barker holds the outside. Meanwhile, coming through comes Neate as well, and then from them it's going to be King-Magee up the inside as he roars his way onto the brakes, and Barker out of sorts here, and this may just buy Edmondson the time he needs to stay safe for Barker all the way to the end. But as they make the way up towards turn number 6 from these guys, we do look to on drives further up the road, and in particular Rob Armstrong here, who's got the company of Nicholas Rice. You can see the leaders starting to get closer and closer again, but Armstrong not wanting to fight with Nicholas Rice, letting the Ferrari driver go as the Mercedes driver just buries the throttle in and gets the power down. But you can imagine for Armstrong, a P8 in the Prime class, it won't be perhaps what he wanted from the machine today, but he'll take it and look forward to what's in store at Suzuka. But as they head in towards the next braking zone, in towards Mercedes corner, will still we continue to return into that lead battle here as Matt Edmondson steps wide into Mercedes corner, where he decides to do it safely. But I wonder whether that's going to cost Edmondson a lot of the time that he was able to gain as a result of the way Barker had to let the leaders go. You can see King-Magee just behind him now as they make their way in towards Mobile 1 curve, but as they roll on through and up towards turn number 12, where Edmondson, knowing he's got to play his cards right, and on reflection I think he has played it right in terms of the fact he's not lost too much time and he's played it safe as well. But as they come through left into right, the item being raised there, and my guy side saying Armstrong lapping Armstrong there with respect to James Armstrong lapping what is Rob Armstrong. And well, I'm not 100% sure if they are related, ladies and gentlemen. I might have to ask them about that over the course of the mid-season break. If you do though, let us know in the Twitch or the YouTube chat. And as the drivers head on to another lap here, where Edmondson right now going through the right and down towards turn number 2. Now that confirmation there from my guy's side that Rob Armstrong is James Armstrong's dad. Well, that definitely helped. Thank you on my guy's side. And well, onto the brakes they go, and Edmondson there turns in. Oh, good, there's contact between the two of them, and Edmondson in the end by turning in and making contact there with King-Magee, and well, with that is going to release Barker on through to take P2 in the AM class here. It's a late twist in the tail in the battle for the run-up spot in the AM class, and now Barker just has to hold on. I think he's going to be looking at his mirrors and notice that King-Magee's right there again, and thinking surely I've just got to let him go. As they make their way down towards Fitzcarraldo, and meanwhile fighting's not over yet further down the field in the Prime class either, because here This is Marvin Cruz versus Jeff Griffiths. Griffiths on the inside, Cruz on the outside, and as Cruz's mates go all the way round. Meanwhile, that's Daniel Payne almost loses the rear of the car. The Porsche in the old Losing Cars outfit, who loses the rear coming out of Fitzcarrera, that brings it back together. And I think right now was the Payne just trying to back off and let Cruz fight against his rival, given the fact the old Losing Cars drivers don't want to step in each other's toes. And well, therefore for Payne, he'll only want to get through if he feels though he's being held up drastically. But with Payne as well, his next target would be leaking at McGee, who's in P14 and already the best part of 10 seconds up the road. And Payne's his next roll behind is Krista Halsoy, who is in respect 15 seconds behind him. So I think Payne can afford to just simply back off as they make the way in towards turn number 12. As they come on through the left-hander and up towards what we turn 13 through to 16. Going through the left, right, and then double right once again. Our leader's gone to one final lap. We will get what is a 37th lap of racing here at the Hockenheimring today. Armstrong's already onto that final lap with Neate just behind him, and then David Sobreiro a little bit further back. As the drivers roar their way on to the final lap, from which they'll take the points they score. Well, Marvin Cruz right now still chasing after Griffiths, but not close enough to get involved. Meanwhile, Peter Cox here, he's having to deal with Chris Constable, and the Destino Motorsports drivers just staying in formation at this point. But I would imagine that Constable might want a bit of a reconciliation place here, but Cox may have something to say about that. But as they come through turns 8, 9 and 10, we do look back to your leaders here. The closest battle on circuit, and it's going to go to the wire, it would seem. But Armstrong right now leading home this potential 1-2, and whether they've decided to hold formation to the very end, that's only something the team principal, the manager and the drivers will know. And as they head in towards the Mercedes arena, it's Armstrong who's going to close up to Nicholas Rice for a gap of half a second. But I think he'll feel as though, given the fact that these two have got a comfortable gap to what is David Sobreiro of 7 seconds, they don't have to push if they don't want to. And the question from Race and the Void in the Twitch chat, which is, do any of these cars have rear grip left? Well, do you keep in mind some tactical decisions may have been made in the pit lane to change 1 or 2 tyres, and particularly focus on the rear tyres, because they can change tyres at the same time they put fuel in the car. But I think a lot of drivers will be struggling with some term of grip on the car in the end. And as Armstrong makes his way on through turn number 12, he's got through all the difficult corners. There's only 2 to go, and Neate's right behind him. But the thing is here, as they make the way on through turn number 15, I think it's only going one way, and it's going to be back-to-back wins here, because as James Armstrong comes out the final corner, he becomes the first double win of the season. And it's James Armstrong for Arnold's competition who takes P1 over in the elite cars, ahead of Aiden Neate just behind. It's a 1-2 for Arnold's competition, and it's a 1-2-3 for Arnold's competition with their pink outfits. David Sobreiro completing the elite and overall podium ahead of Harold Shatatas. Daniel Shilcock in the end will take P5 ahead of Jack Taylor, and then it will be Joshua Pratt who comes on through here to take the pro win for TU Sport Corvette. He has been untouchable today as he finishes ahead of Helder Gonçalves and Eric Rozev, and then Ryan Davies will shortly come on through to take home what will be a P2 in the pro class for the TU Sport Car Marte driver, in what has definitely been a hard fought race, as Mark Collicott takes P3 only a second behind. We now have Chris Round who makes his way on through for Leroy Jenkins, and will goodness be, ladies and gentlemen, he has Leroy Jenkins his way to victory in the prime class. There's no question about it. A P12 finish overall ahead of Reece Saunders. Simon Oldfield will take second place in the prime class, and a brilliant driver for the Team Badger Steel team. And then Alan Lever completes your prime podium for UKSimRacing Stewart. Khalid Ramadan finishes P4 in the pro class, just over the pro podium ahead of John Eddowes, Council Rotner and Alex Hill. Speaking of him, crossing line there for TU Sport Kimmy, and then you have Peter Cox and Chris Constable coming on through, with Chris Constable finishing P21 just behind his teammate. Tom Weston P22 ahead of Alex Millward, and Weston having a great debut today, but the fortune's not going his way, as for Alex Millward had all the pace but just not able to find his way through the field. And Neil Smith, here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's had 6 attempts at an AM win, and on the 6th try he finds it at long last. He is your AM winner today, the privateer in the 304, and no longer does Neil Smith see the heartbreak that confounded him in season 11. And it's great to see what a driver from the AM winner, P26, and he is what is your last lead lap finishers. And well, as all of our drivers still coming through, I think most of our drivers have finished the race now, and the only drivers coming through where it is going to be Rob Armstrong, but he's already completed his race. And in the end, it will be 31 finishers on the lead lap, with Ollie Pimley taking the 31st and final position. And with everybody classified, we do also have updates with regards to finishing positions further down. In the AM class, it was Matt Edmondson in the end who did take the run-up spot in the AM class ahead of Jack Barker. And so you might be wondering, how did they swap the places back after what was Barker coming on through? Well, here's a quick replay to find out. And it was side-by-side battling here as they made the way on through turns 15 and 16 to the checkered flag. In fact, I think, unless I'm mistaken, was that the white flag? Well, side-by-side they went, and Edwards in the end just mustered his way past the Ford GT driver for practically a photo finish. But Matt Edmondson taking second place in the AM class there. And goodness me, what a battle in the end, and a great rivalry starting to run between Barker and Edmondson. But as we do have a couple of drives still on cooldown laps, including Jill Dutton and Guy Canliel for the wrong stuff. It didn't go quite right for both drives today, albeit it must be said Guy Canliel P7 in the AM class, P47 overall, and Dutton P12 in the Pro-Am class. What a brilliant day of racing there we had at the Hockenheimring. And well, after the absolute intensity of the slipstream racing we saw at what was Daytona, it's been a very different tone of racing here at the Hockenheimring. It's been very technical, it's been very tight and nuanced, but I can tell you one thing, it has by no means been any less exciting, and it's set us up for a mid-season break that's only going to leave us all salivating for the prospect to come back in 2 weeks' time in Japan at Suzuka's Grand Prix circuit. But now, as all the drivers have mostly made their way into the pits or on their way into the pits, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And start off the overall finishing positions after 60 minutes of racing in round 2 of the UKSimRacing GT3 League Season 12, brought to you on iRacing. James Armstrong leading home what was a 1-2 for Arnage competition ahead of teammate Aiden Neate. Now, interestingly enough, we can see that despite being classified as P3 finisher on circuit, David Sobreiro has received a post-race penalty immediately from the automated iRacing stewarding system, and that has demoted him from the P3 finish. So therefore, based on this classification, it is not a 1-2-3 for Arnage competition, with their pink driver being dropped further down the field to P11, as you can see there, albeit we'll have to get clarification about that after the racing today. Perhaps there was a bit of an error, or perhaps a track limit infringement which pushed him over the racing limit point as well, but again, that's all to be found out later. But it does mean that Geraldo Stratatas has been promoted to an unexpected P3 there for Absolute Motorsport Ace-Liv, and well, a change of team, and with it a change of fortunes it would seem, and taking that final spot on the elite and overall podium ahead of Daniel Shilcock, the Tractix Racing driver, P4 there, and a bit of a quiet race after holding on to the top 5 for quite some time, but strategy in the end enabling Jotatas to get ahead of him and not quite able to come back in the battle. Jack Taylor round off the top 5 there for Tiki SimSport Tour ahead of Josh Pratt, the Tiki SimSport Corporate driver, your pro winner today, and really it could be said in a class of his own, albeit Ryan Davies would have something to say about that, and we'll come to him very shortly, because between the two pro drivers, Helder Gonçalves and Eric Rosev, with the Tractix Racing driver fighting hard to stay clear of the Race Lab Esports driver, 4 seconds between them in the end, and then Ryan Davies, P2 in class for the pro drivers, and P9 overall for Tiki SimSport Car Marte in an absolutely solid drive, and whilst he perhaps didn't quite have the pace of Pratt, definitely making sure it was a 1-2 for Tiki SimSport, and they're going to be proud of that. DCW Racing's Mark Collog came on strong in the closing stage of the race to finish P10 overall, P3 in the pro class, and I think you'd imagine if he had 1 or 2 more laps he could have taken the fight to Davies, and David Sobreiro they're demoted to P11 for Arnage competition pink. We'll get an update about that after the racing today. We might get one in between the racing and the post-round interviews. We'll keep you posted, ladies and gentlemen, but he's best to rest. And now focusing on the podium finishing positions in our classes, but where they fitted into the overall standings. Chris Round there, P12, but for the Leroy Jenkins driver, your Pro-Am winner in an absolutely dominant drive ahead of Rhys Saunders, the privateer, albeit Team Vegetil Simon Oldfield in the end, finishing at P2 in the prime class. Now, of course, we say it was a dominant drive for Chris Round, but you do have to consider that Chris Constable kept him honest all the way, but he was indomitable in the fact that nobody was able to force him into a mistake, whereas it was for Constable a mistake that took him off the podium, and in the end, Alan Lever being the third and final driver on that prime podium, P15 overall for UKSimRacing Stewart. We then come further down the finishing order, and we can see your top 20 there is completed by Peter Cox of Destino Motorsports ahead of Chris Constable, the fourth place prime driver who we just mentioned there, and also Peter Cox's teammate. But continue to focus on the podium finishing positions in the overall standings. There in P26 is perhaps one of the stars of today, particularly if you focus on the AM class, Neil Smith, the privateer, taking his first ever AM GT3 League win with UKSimRacing, the privateer making it happen at the 6th time of trying. He's been in the lead position 5 times previously and it hasn't quite paid off, but today he has made it happen, and I think he's going to be absolutely emotional over that one. And then looking at further afield to what was P34, second place in the AM class to Matt Edmondson, P34 overall for UKSimRacing Stewart, and find his way back past Jack Barker right in the final 2 corners of the race, with the Ford GT privateer there taking the final spot on the AM podium. To note, Ollie Pinney, your last lead lap finisher, P31 there for Symphony Esports, and then every driver after him finishing a lap or more down. As we look further on down the order there, we can see out of the 57 starters, 31 may have finished on the lead lap, and then we did see the rest of the field through to P51's Connor Craven for PXL-SimRacing finishing a lap down. We also had multiple drivers finish multiple laps down, including John Davis for the wrong stuff and James Bostock there for Petec GP2, and the same for Gavin Gardner with that unfortunate late retirement after the spin that put him on his way into the pit lane and put him out of the running effectively, and therefore a premature retirement. But they'll all be classified as finishers down to P54 and inclusive, with Next Gen Racing driver and his peers completing over half the race distance of the race winner. But meanwhile, for Ed Frazina, Noya Sabas and Rachel Conkley, they will be classified as non-finishers as they did not complete over half the race distance for Carfellas, the Privateer outfit and Prismatic Motorsports respectively. Now coming on to the individual class finisher positions, this is where all the points are scored, of course. James Armstrong, your elite winner for Arnold's competition, ahead of teammate Aiden Neate, a 1-2. The first 1-2 we've seen in a long time in the GT3 League, ahead of Absolute Motorsport ace lift Helder Stratatus, and then outside the podium, Daniel Shilcock and Jack Taylor to complete your top 5. Helder Gonzalez, P6, ahead of Eric Rosev in their great little strategic battle, with David Sobreiro demoted to P8 there after the race. Arnold's competition pink, ahead of the privateer of Reece Saunders, who, despite the fact he may not have had the practice, he definitely got a lot of practice in over the race in terms of battling hard with drivers of other classes and trying to carve his way through. As did Alex Millward, who started from the back of the field due to a qualifying ban, but in the end could not quite find his way through positions for effect simulations other than to take P10 ahead of Gavin Gardner, the sole retiree for Next Gen Racing. We then come on to the Pro class. And as we can see here, Josh Pratt, in fact, will just pause the fault there because we have had confirmation from my guy Sai that for David Sobreiro in the elite class, he picked up a black flag on the final lap that he did not have time to serve. So therefore, he's been awarded an automatic penalty, a post-race time penalty, which has demoted him down the positions. And that explains the story there, ladies and gentlemen. But coming on to the Pro class, Josh Pratt taking the win for Tiki SimSport Corporate to make it a 1-2 for Tiki SimSport as a whole, ahead of Ryan Davies by 18 seconds in the end. The Tiki SimSport Car Marte driver, in turn, just fended off Mark Collicott for DCW Racing. Outside the podium, Khalid Ramadan and John Eddowes completed your top 5, ahead of Casper Brotner with the old dudes in cars at black driver, having a good run versus Eddowes, not quite able to find his way past at the finish line, but Alex Hill, meanwhile, P7, and not to be his day today, but having the worry about Pete Cox chasing him all the way to the end of the race, with Tom Weston and Casper Tunstead completing the Pro top 10. P11 for Daz Sharples in the old dudes in cars blue driver, having a bit of misfortune and finding himself battling more with the primes than the pros, and the same could be said for Nicholas Rice there for Destino Motorsports, ahead of Ollie Pimley for Symphonert, and then finish a lap down in the class, Lee King-Magee, Daniel Pays and Krista Halsoy, and they completed your drivers who finished a lap down and finished the race with your sole retiree of Rachel Conkley, who will be classified as a non-finisher for Prismatic Motorsports. And then comes what is the Pro-Am class. And here we can see in our third of 4 classes, Chris Round taking the win for Leroy Jenkins by 4.3 seconds over Team Vagisil, Simon Oldfield, and Anne Lever completing the podium there for UKSimRacing Stewart. A further 14 seconds to Chris Constable, and commiserations to Destino Motorsports driver, who I think would have thought as though he was battling for the win all the way to the finish if it weren't for that error coming out of turn number 4, but still plenty yet to work on for next round. And then as we can see, P5 Rob Selby there, the UKSimRacing Stewart driver, another driver is battling for the podium, but a spin at the Spitzkegger hairpin costing him very dear. Matt Whiteford, P6, in a quiet but strong race there to finish just outside the top 5 of the privateer, head of Racing Lab Esports Steinar Sani, and then finishing a lap down, Rob Armstrong, Jeff Griffiths and Marvin Cruz to complete your top 10. Simon Andre Livingston in an anonymous P11 today, but the Racing Lab Esports driver perhaps feeling as though the circuit didn't fit him compared to others later on in the season calendar. And then the wrong stuff, Joel Dutton at P12 ahead of Steve Hughes, with Stephen Albanese and Chris Bates completing the top 15. And then as we come all the way to the end of the finishing order there, Connor Craven finishing off the order of drivers who made it to the end of the race, albeit a lap down for PXL-SimRacing. And then your 2 retirees of Ed Frazina and Noyes Sabas, who will both be classified as non-finishers. And then coming on to the AM class, last but by no means least, here we can see Neil Smith, your winner, and the only AM to finish on the lead lap, the privateer taking his first win in his career, ahead of Matt Edmondson for UKSimRacing Stewart and Jack Barker, the privateer, in their close battle for the runner-up spot. Outside the podium, John Doble and James Conley in a great race for the pair of them, and behind the UKSimRacing Mansell driver, the privateer of Neil Jack, ahead of Guy Kylie, with Andy Skinner, Cy Hartley and John Davies completing your top 10. John Davies finished 6 laps down, but did make it to the checkered flag, and the same for James Bostock there, who finished 9 laps down in the end after that unfortunate incident at turn 7 into 8 cost the Petec GP2 driver a tow to the pits. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all your finishing positions for our drivers, and well, what a race it has been here at Germany. But as the circuit falls silent, we would like to just take a moment before we get ready for our post-round interviews to let you know that if you have enjoyed the racing today, Well, firstly, we do recommend that you subscribe to the media platform you're tuning in on, whether it be the UKSimRacing Twitch channel or YouTube channel, so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts. We have weekly broadcasts here brought to you live from Circuit Side in the GT3 League, which you've seen today, and also the Porsche Cup, which runs on Thursdays, and we've got plenty more planned and will be broadcasted over the whole of 2024. But also, we'd like to say, if you would like to support UKSimRacing a little bit beyond that, well, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? Because here at UKSimRacing, we are affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, which do include, of course, SLC Driver Academy, Swilly Meta Sim Racing Coaching, and also Race Anywhere. And if you do head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk today, well, you'll see on your screen right now, there's the website, and you'll notice there is a link to our Discord in the top right corner of the homepage. Now, if you click on that, you'll be able to join the official UKSimRacing Discord. But why would you want to do that? Well, firstly, if you ever want to be on the grid for any of our series or alternatively one-off events, you need to be part of the UKSimRacing Discord. It's a mandatory requirement, so that way you can attend the pre-race driver briefings and stay up to date with all the latest information before you go onto the grid. But perhaps more relevant to today is the fact that our affiliates provide discount codes which are only available on the official UKSimRacing Discord. And if you use one of those codes as part of your purchase, it puts you in pole position to receive a discount, which is a win for you, but it's also a win for the wider UKSimRacing community, because we are a non-profit organisation here at UKSR, and it means that every penny and pound that we make from affiliate purchases, all that money goes back into funding future instalments and series, including, of course, the GT3 League, the Porsche Cup, and also the upcoming British GT4 Limited Series and the MX5 Enduro Series, and all and more we've got planned for 2024. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK sim racing, but right now I think our drivers will need a breather, and indeed we need a breather here in the commentary booth before we return in about 10 to 12 minutes time for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere, we'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And today we're going to be hearing from 3 drivers, 1 from the Elite class and 2 from the AM class. And we're going to be having a double header of race winners today, starting off with James Armstrong from our knowledge competition, your Elite class winner. And then we're going to your AM class winner, Neil Smith, the privateer. Before then going on to Tiki Simsport Corpus, Andrew Skinner, who may have only finished P8 today in the AM class, but he was racing for something a lot higher than just points out on circuit. And we'll hear from him in due course. But firstly, I'm joined now in the interview room by none other than James Armstrong. James, you took the win at Daytona, and it was a hard-fought race with regards to strategy at Daytona. And now here today in Germany, it was all about the technical twists and turns, and you've made it back-to-back wins. How do you feel about leading the way at the Hockenheimring?
Yeah, it's really good feeling, really good to win 2 races in a row now. It'd be nice if I could win every race, but we'll see.
Oh, no doubt about it. Everybody wants to take every win they can, yourself included. And talking about winning here today, we talked a lot in the pre-show about the fact that qualifying at this circuit is so important to success. Your thoughts on qualifying, given the fact you took pole position in the end, and you did it with a lap to spare, if my memory serves me correctly, and it looked as though it was one of those laps which you weren't going to beat.
Man, qualifying was interesting. I didn't really do much prep, even though like qualifying is everything around this circuit, because there's only one real place to overtake. My first 2 laps were good. I think they were good enough for pole position anyway, but they really did not feel good. And then I went back to the pits, did a little adjustment on the setup, and went out for that last lap. It was a bit messy in the first sector. I lost a 10th and a half, but then made it up in the last sector, so that was good. But yeah, maybe another 2 tenths on that lap would have been the ideal lap.
Oh, goodness me. Well, even though it was a lap that wasn't quite perfection, you managed to perfect the art of putting it on pole either way, and just ahead of teammate David Sobreiro from the on-road competition at Pink outfit as well by what was just shy of 800s. I mean, given the fact you're running in the Audi R8 Evo, how have you found the car now after 2 rounds of racing? It's the new kid on the block, effectively, replacing a much older car. Have you noticed any differences between it and its predecessor?
I think it feels a little bit more understeery, like especially compared to like the Lamborghini, which is essentially the same. Like the old ones were basically the same. It just feels a bit more understeery, and like the traction control is a bit more aggressive and stuff. But it's been fun. I've been enjoying the car, but still just finding little things in it every week.
Indeed, all those little things that you find over time will only enhance the pace. There's no doubt about it that comes from yourself. And coming onto the race then, starting on pole, it was a bit of a scrappy start for many in the midfield and quite a separation of the field. But at the front, I get the feeling there's also a bit of jostling and perhaps a couple of taps on rear bumpers going into turn 1.
At the front, it was actually quite nice and calm, and I don't think, there was no touching or anything at the front, but I heard there was quite a big incident at the back. But yeah, at the front it was all clean, Arnage 1, 2, 3, and we just try to keep it that way the entire race.
I see. And with regards to that, of course, your main rival that we saw at Daytona, Alex Millward for Effect Simulations, being a driver to start from the back of the field due to a qualifying ban penalty, meant that it was open competition really for yourself, David and Aiden Neate, to battle one another. Did you guys sort of talk about it prior to the race in terms of how you would play it, and perhaps when you'd work together versus when you'd start to take the gloves off and say, right, the fight for the win's on?
To be honest, I don't think I mean, at the start we were obviously just keeping in the position, trying to get away, and then once David started to fall off a little bit, they swapped with Aiden, so he could save a bit of fuel just to make sure that he didn't get overtaken in the pits, because the McLaren seems to not be as quick in the pits as the Audi. So yeah, we were just making sure that none of us would lose third, and we never really talked about fighting. To be fair, I don't think any of us really got close enough to each other to have a go or anything, because we were all sat about half a second back, just because the nature of the circuit, it's really hard to get close.
I see, and I do appreciate the insight there, particularly with the difficulties in getting closer to one another over the course of the race. And although I have to ask as well, strategy being a big part, you can make or lose a lot of time through coming out in the right traffic, alternatively staying out longer compared to your peers. Whilst you guys were in control with a 1, 2, 3, I presume there's quite a bit of work in terms of figuring out when you needed to pit.
Yeah, we spent quite a few laps going, should we pit now? Oh no, we might come out in traffic, go pit now. But then we caught up to some lap traffic, and they were all fighting, and I just went, guys, I'm pitting, and they all followed me in. But yeah, I didn't really fancy getting caught up in the battles that I was seeing in front of the lap down cars.
I think a sensible call there, all things considered, and the right time to make the call as well. And emerging from the pit lane, there were a couple of back markers that you needed to thread the needle through. And we did see in the last 5 to 7 minutes of the race that yourself and teammate Aiden were starting to get closer together once again, and there was an element where it was about 3 tenths between you, but it looked like at that point it was more about bringing it home for the 1-2 finish than anything else.
Yeah, there was we were getting a few too many off tracks. Just I made a mistake in the setup, so I was really struggling in the last sector with understeer and collecting a few off tracks that I really shouldn't have been getting. So we were both pretty tight on off tracks, and we didn't want to risk anything, so we just played it safe. And yeah, the traffic was sort of bringing the gap down, and then it would bring it up again. And I was also having issues if I forgot to plug my headset in, so it nearly ran out of battery. And yeah, that was not fun. But yeah, we just stuck together, got the 1-2. That's all that really mattered.
Oh, goodness me, and well, bringing on home that 1-2 result, and of course, it was going to be a 1-2-3 with David Sobreiro bringing on home what's that third place, albeit I believe a black flag being awarded to him just before the finish line, and therefore not able to serve it. I presume he might be a bit frustrated by that.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy. 2 lap down cars really slowed up in front of him, and the guy behind him bumped him in the rear, and it gave him a 4x, which put him over the 17. X limit, and then due to it being the last lap on iRacing, you can't serve a drive-through on the last lap, and therefore the game gave him a 35-second penalty.
It's unfortunate. We can definitely say that you've achieved, at least in post results so far, the first 1-2 that we've seen in at least the best part of 6 seasons of what is the UKSimRacing GT3 League, if my memory serves me correctly. And I think in history, presuming the result may stand, that will be the first ever 1-2-3 we've seen a single team achieve, which is a sensational achievement. And of course, it's only 2 rounds in, we've got 6 more to go, but we've also got a mid-season break coming up before Suzuka. I have to ask firstly, what's the plan during the mid-season break? Are we expecting Arnage competition to be putting all their effort into the 24 hours of Daytona?
Yeah, we've got a few cars in the Daytona 24 hours. Really, I'm not racing. Just I've got a university open day that I'm going to on Saturday, so I can't race Daytona.
Well, that's unfortunate, but still completely understand given the importance of education at the higher level. And well, good luck to your teammates and the wider team at Daytona. And in coming again to yourself with regards to Suzuka, 2 weeks from now, you're going to be championship leader going into perhaps one of the trickiest circuits on our calendar for this season. How are you feeling for the visit to Japan?
It's mixed. I usually do alright at Suzuka, but then I don't really enjoy the track in GT cars. I much prefer LMP and Formula cars around Suzuka. I just feel that the GT cars are too big, and they're just big and heavy, and I like having a lot of downforce in the S's and stuff, so it'll be mixed. I'll be mixed, yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you rise to the challenge there, and perhaps the mixed nature of the GT3 versus the Japanese circuit. But just before we do let you go, James, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I think we'll go for the same as last week. The parents are buying me all my rig and stuff, and then the team and the teammates, and just everyone who allows us to be at the front of all the races and do the best we can.
Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room, and I can tell you, at least in the Twitch chat, from what I can see, there's definitely a lot of spectators who have rapidly become fans of yourself with the performances you've been putting in, and indeed the wider Arnage team as well, particularly the race in the Void. They're saying it's great race and a very strong drive from yourself and the Arnage team. Congratulations to yourself and the team for making it the first 1-2 we've seen in a long time, arguably a 1-2-3, and also becoming our first 2-time winner for this season. Can you make it 3 in a row in 2 weeks' time? We look forward to seeing it if you can. But until then, all the best as always. Thank you for joining me in the interview room, and we'll catch you in Japan.
Thank you.
So hearing there from James Armstrong from Arnage Competition, the first driver to make back-to-back wins, and indeed 2 wins this season in the elite class and overall, and very straight to the point with regards to talking about this race and the perspective of it, but also interesting his thoughts on qualifying, in the fact in the qualifying session initially not quite getting the laps together, his first 2 laps, as he mentioned, being in not necessarily directly in his own words, but coming across as scrappy in terms of some bits were left on the table, time wasn't quite there, and on the lap that saw him take pole by what was just shy of 800 over Arnold's competition Pink's David Sobreiro, he ended up having to regain all the time he lost in the opening sector in the final sector, so there was more time out there if he'd been able to perfect the lap, but not quite able to do so. And also talking about the fact this Audi R8 Evo quite understeer-centric compared to its predecessor, with a change in the aerodynamics, and therefore having to really yield the most out of the car, and it's all a learning experience. But still, the learning he's had so far in the car enabled him to put it on pole and then going into the race. Well, with the team's main rival from Effect Simulations not quite up there, after the 1-2-3 started to pull away from the rest of the chasing pack, including the likes of Heroldus Jatatas and also what was there, of course, Daniel Shilcock, they were able to start to turn things down and start to focus on just consolidating that finish, and that's what it became all about. But also interesting his thoughts there about having to pick the right time to pit, and in the end being forced to pit with the fact they were coming up behind a number of drivers in the lower classes who were fighting hard and therefore at the risk of costing them time and that effective 1-2-3 finish. He's not going to be on the grid for the Daytona 24 hours, but he will be back on the grid in 2 weeks' time for the Suzuka Racing round at number 3, and well, we look forward to that. And can James Armstrong make it 3 wins in a row? He'll be perhaps feeling quietly confident he can do, given the pace he's brought to the table so far, but I get the feeling that given the fact Suzuka isn't a circuit he's not too comfortable with in the GT3 machine compared to high downforce machines, perhaps it could be the turn to see another driver take the top step. We'll have to wait and see, but that's the way it goes 2 weeks from today. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come on to our second interview, and we have a fourth interview who's signed up. We're going to have 3 AM interviews once again. Matt Edmondson's decided to volunteer his time as our fourth and final interview for today, and we'll hear from our second place AM driver in due course. But speaking of AM drivers, let's come to our AM winner and his first ever win in his UKSimRacing career, and it is none other than Neil Smith, who gets ready to join me in the interview room, and we're going to be hearing the perspective of the driver who absolutely nailed it today when it mattered most. We are just waiting for him to make his way in to our voice chat here, but as he does so, in the fact many of you will recall, if you tuned in for season 11, the fact multiple races where he was chasing this win, but it didn't quite come. But as he joins me now, it's finally come, Neil, your first win in your UKSimRacing GT3 league career in the AM class. I mean, you've had to wait a long time for it, but you achieved it at the Hockenheimring today. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's pretty good to be fair. I wasn't massively confident coming into it, and then that sort of comes out of nowhere. So yeah, really pleased with how that's gone. It couldn't have gone a great deal better, I don't think.
Oh, goodness me. Well, to be fair, whilst some of it might have been down to perhaps some of your rivals getting caught up in the early stage of the incident, and some would say perhaps after that the racing then took a different tone. I mean, let's just wind things back a little bit in the fact before we come on to the race and whatnot. Qualifying, you put it on pole, there was close competition from Matt Edmondson, but in the end somebody had to take pole position and you were the one to do it. How was qualifying for yourself?
That qualifying was, I think, my personal best by about 3/10. I have no idea where that came from, so very pleased with that. It was one of those, I think I had an extra lap and I'm like, no, I'm happy with that. I'm going to go take 5 minutes, calm myself down and get ready for the race.
Well, that's brilliant to hear you set a personal best in qualifying. I mean, that is always a huge boost to your confidence going into the race. And with regards to the race, of course, at Daytona in the AM class, everybody, yourself included, had some sort of difficulty at Daytona. But going into this one, a very different style of circuit, albeit one where it seems as though one of the big things would be when to pick your pit stop, and also on top of that, tyre degradation here at the Hockenheimring. How would you prepare yourself for this race in terms of what's the strategy?
So in that sense, when the carnage at the just behind me happened, I was like, right, okay, I've managed to keep up with this lead pack. I'll just try and do what I can to keep up with those and use the tow of anybody who I can't realistically keep up with to just pull me along with them. Keeping in that tow, save a bit of fuel, and not pit too early, because I knew that the people that had dropped back the 20 seconds or so from the incident would have basically been where I've come back out. So I was just trying to avoid catching those, so I pushed it as far as I realistically could, and basically using the tow and just sort of do what I can.
Well, definitely a sensible approach there. and still all the way through the race, you may not have had the close company of some of your AM rivals to contend with, but you definitely also had a few exchanges with drivers in the Prime and also the Pro classes, and you weren't afraid to get your elbows out when you wanted to.
Yeah. So there was a few times where if I didn't feel like I was going to lose a massive amount of time from the defending, I went for it, just to sort of maintain that place. I couldn't see on my info how far back my actual AM opponents were. So in my head, I was like, I am going to try and keep as many people between me and my opponents as possible. Everybody that gets past is one less person in their way. I wasn't trying to do anything too insane. There was a bit of a scrapping with a couple of guys. I think at that point I just sort of fancied a bit of racing. But yeah, largely it was do what I can to keep up with the faster drivers, defend where it made sense, and otherwise I'd let them past a bit if I just saw that I wasn't going to keep the place, and then try and use their toe for the next however many laps I could.
Well, a sensible approach there, and definitely one that led to some thrilling moments as we called witness of yourself battling with some of your rivals at certain points. But also, going on to the wider race around here, how did the car feel towards the end? Because there was this big question about when to take tyres, should you take tyres, and I think a lot of drivers, perhaps yourself included, were running almost on rims towards the end of the race.
Yeah, so I didn't take tyres. So my thought process there was, I mean, the BM didn't feel great around here. I don't know how the other guys did. I know I was running relatively low downforce. I was relying on the pace on that back straight to sort of keep me in the running, and basically do what I did with Matt in the Daytona race to try and just keep everybody behind while I was pulling away slightly on the back straight. But rather than risking the tyres, in terms of one fresh set and the other side being basically bald by the end, I figured at least if I'm got bald on both, I know what I'm dealing with. So I just sort of went with that. At least I knew what I was dealing with because I've sort of practiced for that.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and despite your tyres being bald on both sides, by the end of it, you brought it on home, and with it the victory. And I have to ask, come at that final last couple of corners, and then seeing the checker flag, and the fact you were the only AM driver to finish the race on the lead lap, just take us through what crossing the finish line was like.
Oh no, yeah, it was one of those where I was like, I've just had a lot of pings, I'm not sure what's going on. It was just people basically giving me the congratulations on the win, and at the time I had no idea how far ahead I was, if somebody had snuck out in front of me in the pit stops or anything crazy. So I was basically just going, look, it looks good, I think I'm in first. Let's just keep going and keep it clean. And then, as I say, as soon as I looked, I'm like, oh, I did win. It's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, we take those. I'm very, very pleased with it. Yeah, just that's going to push me for the next one. I think this has sort of shown that it is possible with a bit of help.
Well, you had to put all the effort in and manage the race from start to finish, and with a 57 car field, even though there might have been the incident at the start that definitely gave you a bit of breathing room, I don't think anybody would put it against you in the fact that you drove this race and were unstoppable from start to finish. And now looking ahead, of course, to the next round of the season, we've got a 2-week break coming up, but when we do return, we head to Suzuka for the Grand Prix circuit and another 60 minutes of racing. How are you feeling for the visit to Japan?
It's been a while since I've been on Suzuka, but I say with the 2 weeks between, I'm fairly confident I can get another decent race out of it. I'm just gonna, as I say, I'm taking it as they come at the minute and just seeing what I can get, and if we can push for the wins again, then that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I've sort of come in without any massive expectations and just doing what I can, really.
Oh, I absolutely love the attitude there, and I'm sure many will agree. We look forward to seeing you taking that attitude forward at Suzuka. And I do have to ask, in the intervening break, we of course do have the 24 Hours of Daytona, the official iRacing event next weekend. Are we likely to see you on the grid?
I am afraid not. I have been booked by the wife for a weekend away somewhere, or a day out, a day to like a city trip break. So no racing for me on the weekend, unfortunately.
Well, that's Absolutely fair. And the fact you're being whisked away with the wife, we do hope you have a nice time and it sets you all up for the return to Suzuka 2 weeks from today. But just before we do let you go, Neil, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
As usual, yourself for the broadcast and everybody for organising it. And I also like to just make reference to the UKSR actual racing team guys. They basically approached me and asked me to join, so I am no longer a privateer. As you may have noticed, I'm not running the orange anymore. So I have joined the UKSR team. So I'm racing with those guys, and they've been giving me a nudge to get the best out that I can, and so that's been great so far.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear, Neil, and I think UKSR will be very happy to have you, and it's a huge boost to the team there, and you could already see the working together with the team yielding results, including this one today. And with that, congratulations once again on a fantastic drive to your first win in your GT3 League career here at UKSR. Will we see another win in 2 weeks' time? Only time will tell, but we look forward to seeing you try and be on the grid at Suzuka. Until then, have a great 2-week break, and we'll see you in Japan.
And yourself, thank you very much.
So hearing it there from Neil Smith, an absolutely jubilant driver, no doubt about it. And well, as he does fly the UKSR livery high there for the AM driver today, let's talk about the situation, the fact that whilst things may have gone his way at the start of the race, he had to put the car on pole to be clear of the incident. And that's the thing as well, the higher up the grid you qualify, the less likely you're going to be involved in some degree of altercation should it happen at the start of the race. It's always a probability factor, and putting on pole in the end by what was the slender margin versus Matt Edmondson, not a tenth between the two of them, was a sign of potentially something special happening today. And after what was an incident that saw many of his rivals held back, whereas Neil was able to break away, he then had to manage the race for 60 minutes, not put a foot wrong, and make sure to also enjoy a little bit of batting with his pro and prime rivals, doing all that and more, plus balancing the tyre wear, and in the end, the BMW M4 driver bringing it on home for his first win. It's only going to boost his confidence and make him even happier to be on the grid. There's no question about it. And well, can he become another winner, or in fact another double winner we should say, for this season at Suzuka in 2 weeks' time? Well, he's going to be well rested for it, there's no question about it, and we look forward to seeing him try. But many of his rivals as well would like to have something to say about that when we come back in 2 weeks' time in Japan. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come on to our third interviewee. We're going to be hearing from Andrew Skinner, or Andy Skinner, as he's known to some. The TQ Sinsport corporate driver gets ready to join us in the interview room, and we're going to be hearing his story today in amongst the midfield of the GT3 class and the challenge that he did experience with regards to batting with many a driver around him. But as we just get ready, and in fact, we ask him to join us now. Yeah, that's a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as he gets ready to join us, we'll hear the perspective of the driver from TQ Sinsport Corp, who definitely found some challenges in the field, and he does join me now. Good evening to you, Andrew. And what a day it's been for yourself at the Hockenheimring today. A P8 start in class, a P8 finish there, and it looked as though for every place you're able to gain over the course of the racing distance, you lost some as well, and it definitely got quite scrappy out there on the tight and technical circuit. How was Germany for you?
Germany wasn't too bad. Hockenheim's not my favourite track, but, you know, it is what it is. I'm just happy with the P8 start and the P8 finish. Start was a bit chaotic, but after that I just settled into a rhythm and just basically tried to make moves, and if I couldn't, anyone that was trying to get past me, I was going to make them go the long way round.
We did a smart way to approach it and forcing people to go the long, hard distance as well. And at this circuit, the inside line being so powerful. But coming all the way back to qualifying, P8 in terms of your starting position, or P48 on the overall grid. And qualifying looks close, whichever way you looked at it, whether it was at the front of the field or even further back. How was qualifying for you?
Yeah, I mean, qualifying, obviously, it's one of the things I've been working on over the off-season. I decided to go for 4 straight laps rather than split them into 2. My thinking there was, let's just get the 4 laps out of the way. I've been finding out during practice in the officials that my tyres were coming alive on the 3rd lap, so it was just a matter of let's try and run all 4. But I made a few little mistakes on laps 3 and 4, so I could have been a little bit higher up, but unfortunately those little mistakes cost a little bit of time.
Well, it might have been small errors that perhaps separated you from rival Neil Jack, who just took P7 by what was in the end half a tenth. That's how fine it was between the two of you. But then going into the race, a P48 start. But before the race could really get started, a nasty incident going onto the start-finish straight.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky that I was actually the first of the Tiki AMs, and John Doble, who's one of the Tiki teammates of mine, called out that there was accidents in front, and it was just literally a matter of trying to work our way through, trying to take it as slow, as steady as possible, obviously making sure leaving enough room for guys in the other column to try and also not only try and get past me, but to try and avoid the accident as well. I mean, it all happened so quickly, it was just making sure that you're going slow enough to get through all the traffic that causes the pile-up.
Oh, indeed, and making it safely on through, and also aided to a degree by the early call out. But after you cleared the traffic, then we went racing, and it looked for the most part as though a lot of progress being made in the early stages after that, and also starting to enjoy fighting with some of your peers, including the likes of what was Guy Kylie and Neil Jack.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing I've been working on this year, this season. Obviously, last year in the GTP multi-class league, obviously I was at the back. This year, I've had a little bit of coaching over the break from a couple of the guys in Tiki, and this year I'm just going to try and fight. While I'm still trying to be as clean as possible and run my race, I'm still going to show that this year, do you know what? I'm not going to be as easy to overtake as people think I was last year.
Well, that's a great mindset to have, and the results are definitely showing as you continue to prove to people that, like you say, it's not just simply that you can get close to you and make the move as easy as that. And of course, whilst all the racing is going on with regards to you looking to improve and push your way forward in the AM class, today in particular, and I think for a good Porsche season, as we can see from the livery on the car, you're racing for a higher cause as well. Would you mind telling us all about that?
Yeah, so obviously for those that tuned in to Le Mans last year, a colleague at work has obviously had breast cancer, and we got the fortunate news on Monday that she's now in remission. So I spoke with John and Greg about running my cancer livery, Porsche livery, for this race, just as a, she's doing well, let's fly the colours. But yeah, no, Lisa's in remission, and that's very good news to hear. And we just hope that all the research that the guys at Cancer Research do will hopefully get an all clear within the next year or so.
Oh, fingers crossed, and it's great news to hear that your good friends and cancer is in remission, and we've all got our fingers crossed now. I'm sure everybody tuning in will also be sending positive thoughts to your friends' way and to yourself, of course. But it's so great to see you continue the theme out there and racing in support of Cancer Research UK. And coming back to the racing, just talk a little bit about strategy here. It did look as though it was going to be difficult to pick the right time to pit, particularly when you're towards the back of the field, given the fact you've got your rivals to fight with, plus also you've got to deal with the leaders who are eventually coming up to lap you. How did you choose when to pit?
Well, in the practice session on Monday, I basically ran a full stint, and today I ran a full stint. My thinking today was if I go as late as possible, knowing that tyre deg is high at Hockenheim, throw on a fresh set of tyres, and hopefully I can try and make some time back, maybe try and get a couple of positions from the AM class, because obviously if tyre deg was going to be quite high, my hope was that the tyres were going to fall off a cliff, and then I could, with fresher rubber, maybe try and get some positions.
Well, sensible approach on the strategy there, and it did look as though in the end it enabled you to return to where you started, and that's always a great place to finish, is where you start. It means that you haven't lost anything. And well, with a solid finish and going into now a mid-season break, it does mean that after 2 rounds of racing you sit P11 provisionally in the championship standings, but there's still plenty of races to go. How are you feeling for Suzuka in 2 weeks' time?
Oh, Suzuka's one of my favourite tracks. I'm really looking forward to it. Until I can get some practice around that track in a couple of weeks, I don't know how I'm going to fare. But I generally like Suzuka as a track. I think it's an old school circuit that I really like. And hopefully a visit should be in short order the next time I go out to see family in Japan.
Indeed, I'm loving the real-life connection there, and I'm a bit envious of you. I think many right now are envious of the fact that seeing Suzuka in the flesh would be a fantastic and a dream come true. But just before we do let you go, Andy, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout-out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Well, first of all, Paul, again, thank you to yourself for putting on an amazing broadcast every week. Again, thanks to John, Greg, and the guys at Tiki for giving me the opportunity to race with them, and obviously Lisa, hope everything is going all right. We hope not only from the guys from Tiki but from the wider UKSR community that everything goes well in the fight for cancer, and hopefully we'll see you all again at some point.
Well, Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room, as it always is. Thank you for joining me, and congratulations today on a solid P8 finish in the AM class. Definitely a race where you can see your development over the course of your UKSimRacing GT3 league career, and we look forward to seeing that continue when we come back in 2 weeks' time at Suzuka. But until then, have a great rest, and, well, we look forward to seeing you on circuit again in round number 3.
I don't think it'll be rest. I'm in the Daytona 24 next week. But anyway, cheers, Paul.
So hearing it there from Andrew Skinner, no rest for the wicked, as they say, as he'll be racing at the Daytona 24 hours in a week's time there, as he alluded to right at the end. But still, talking about his racing today, and, well, the fact that all really this season is focused on, and 2024 is focused on improving himself as a racer. And talking primarily with respect to the fact that in the races, not being the guy that drivers come up behind and just find they can very quickly make their way past, being a little bit more obstinate, and we got to see that from him today. As we see the pictures right now of Andy being chased around by, what was the wrong stuffs there, Guy Kai Liao, and as they raced deeper and deeper into the race, where it was a P8 finish and P8 start in the AM class. And talking fairly with regards to strategy and just picking up the right time to pit and what suited him at best in the race, but also in qualifying as well, finding those improvements, and that's what it's all about for a good number of AM drivers, in terms of the fact they may not be as fast as the rest of their rivals, but they learn over the course of the season and they naturally evolve and move their way up the classes, or that's the target as the seasons go on. And you never know, by the end of the season we could even see the number 82 driver starting to push for what would be top 5s, and well, we'd all love to see that, there's no doubt about it. But also making a reference to Racing for a Higher Cause there, and in support of Cancer Research UK, in honour of his friend whose cancer has gone into remission, and fingers crossed things carry on that positive path. It just goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, that whilst the racing may not be real, the actual emotions and all the physicality and training that goes behind it is just as real. And indeed, drivers all racing for what is just not just themselves, but also for great causes. And Andrew Skinner raising awareness of a fantastic cause which we can all get behind. But will he be able to push forward at Suzuka and continue to rise up through the ranks in 2 weeks' time? Well, we look forward to seeing him try. But now, ladies and gentlemen, coming on to our final interview of today. You've heard from 2 AMs. You're going to hear from a 3rd AM driver today. We are trying to find one of those Pro-Am drivers. They do exist, by the way. You've seen them on the grid, but unfortunately not available for interview today. But we do have instead none other than Matt Edmondson, who we're going to be hearing from very shortly, and hearing his perspective on what has been definitely a tough race, and as he gets ready to join me. I think he's been having a chat with Jack Barker in what is the pre-interview room, and they've been talking about their battle. Welcome, Matt. It's great to have you join me once again. A fight for P2 in the AM class today, which I think went down to the absolute wire between yourself and one very hungry Ford GT.
I'm going to go to sleep tonight, and all I'm going to see is the back of that damn Ford. Like, it was bad enough seeing them in the GT1 official races, but it's just, that thing is just, it's just a struggle to get past that here, because you can be faster through the complex, but there's just not a lot of easy overtaking moves, and then it just disappears down the straight. Even when you're in the draft, it's just gone, and it's just but it was a good fight between me and Jack in the end. Like, it was a lot of various different tactics I tried, but yeah, that was mental.
Well, you've definitely been in the thick of fights today, and even before we went racing, there was a huge qualifying fight for pole position in the AM class. Neil may have taken pole position, that's Neil Smith, but you just qualified behind him by 700ths, if that. I mean, take us through qualifying.
That was, yeah, this is the qualifying. It was, I couldn't rely on Alan for a tow this time, but I've always sort of struggled with quali, but when I saw the lap, that's the first lap that I managed to get below the 139 mark, and I thought, oh, this is going well, and been sort of talking with Neil, of course, throughout the week, and he'd been struggling, and then he popped that one in, and I was like, that's the first time I could have had a pole, and once again I've missed out on it just again. But honestly, it was a really good lap from Neil to get that, and I was glad to be there. There was a couple of pro-ams between me and Jack, so I was hoping to then, like, at the start, manage to latch onto the back of Neil and then just try and, you know, keep with him. But that didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to.
Well, it may not have gone quite the way you wanted to in terms of qualified, but still, coming into the race, a race start that was hotly anticipated, albeit in the end a dramatic start, and not for the right reasons necessarily.
No, it was. I saw the mess that was happening there, and managed to get through it not too bad. Jack also managed to get through it, but a little bit better. He had a bit of a clearer run, which meant that he got in front of me, and from that moment onwards, it was just impossible to get past that. I tried so hard because I could see Neil and the front pack slowly but surely, like, breaking away from us, and I was like, I have to get past him because these are the best point that my tyres have, and it didn't work at all, and I ended up being swallowed up by some of the guys that were a bit out of position coming back through, and I think I just burnt the tyres out, so I had to try something else, which was pit quite early and see if I could go for the undercut, which did work to begin with, but then again I had the slight problem of more people that I think I managed to jump in pits that were faster than me, trying to get back through, and yeah, it just it became back to a fight with the Ford in the end.
Well, indeed, and really your pit stop perhaps being a shining example of how powerful the undercut can be here at the Hockenheimring, and leaping your way back into P2, like you say, jumping ahead of a number of drivers of other classes as well. And I can imagine in that second stint, as time went on and tyre wear continued to rise, it became more of a question, who can you afford to keep behind you before an AM comes up, rather than the ability to try and outpace everybody.
Yeah, the track temperature rose by about 4 degrees throughout that race, so it and I just started to really struggle with the tyres. I think, like, I changed 2 lefts at the pits, but I think the damage on the rights had already been done, so I was really starting to struggle. So I could just about keep the gap to Jack fine when no one was around, but I had a lot of guys coming through, and I think in a couple of places I wasn't able to maximise letting them through and keeping Jack behind, which, yeah, that was it was an interesting sort of strategy bit which I hadn't quite factored in. I had hoped to come out with a bit more clear air, but I was struggling in the 140s for most of that last stint, which meant a lot of the faster guys were just coming through.
And speaking of struggles which are only going to continue, the last 10 minutes saw the battle for P2 in the class absolutely ramp up to its maximum, with the fact you had the leaders cutting the way through, and then suddenly in all of it, and also what was Pro Championship leader going into tonight, King-Magee, find his way through. You had to balance that whilst also simultaneously trying to keep one eye on the Ford GT coming up behind, and then a bit of contact saw you relegated to P3.
Yeah, I've looked at that, and yeah, it wasn't great for me. Probably turned in a bit too much, which caused that. And I really did think from that point that I was done from that point. And it was just that very last move, that time through the complex. I think Jack was trying to he thought the leaders were a bit closer to let them by, so he ended up getting a poor run out of towards the end, and I probably shouldn't have, but I was that close, and I thought, right, I've got to try. I've got to give it a go, and it just about somehow managed to, drag race to the line, and just win. I can't remember. The gap was really close at the end, but yeah, that was it. I was absolutely sweating by the end of that, trying to get that place. But great racing with Jack. Same with fighting Neil last week at Daytona. Both of them know exactly where to put the car to stop you from getting past, and I really need to work on being able to maximize trying to get past and drive out of corners, because I think that's somewhere where I'm lacking, and it certainly showed when I was getting up the inside of that Ford, and I just couldn't take advantage of it.
Well, it's definitely been two very intense and challenging races, but of course, being in the AM class, it does mean that you're the class of drivers that are looking at to develop the most in the field, or have the greatest potential development, although I would argue also perhaps some of the finest battles in the grid this season so far, albeit we're 2 rounds in, so we're not going to make a major statement of that. But what we can state is that after 2 rounds of racing, you sit P5 in the championship provisionally, but only 6 points separate yourself from championship leader James Connolly, and in between you've got Jack Barker, Neil Smith and John Doble. 2 rounds down, 6 to go, and in 2 weeks' time we return at the Suzuka circuit for round number 3. How are you feeling for the 3rd round of the championship?
It's going to be an interesting one. It's been quite a while actually since I did a race at Suzuka, so we'll see what happens. The Ferrari's been treating me well, so I'm just going to try and knuckle down, see what I can do. I think it's going to be a similar thing where there's going to be areas where things like the Ford and the BMW are going to be strong on some of the longer straights. So I'm going to have to try and work out where I can get past them without holding myself up. And also probably work a bit on qualifying, so hopefully I can try and lead the pack rather than be playing catch-up.
Well, like you said earlier, you're looking for that first pole position, and surely it's going to come at some point, but will it come at Suzuka, and could it become a win at Suzuka? We'll have to wait and see. But just before we do let you go, Matt, firstly, can we expect to see you on the grid for the Daytona 24 Hours next week?
Unfortunately not. Work is unfortunately getting in the way. I would have loved to drive in it, but I'll be cheering on all the guys that in the UKSR and friendly teams that will be giving it a crack. I was part of UKSR Scarlet a couple of years ago when we all of us, it was our first attempt, and we won our split, so I know that feeling of being tired but just cracking on. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the guys can come back with.
We look forward to hearing the outcome for the official UKSimRacing team or teams. And then, of course, lastly, is anybody you'd like to give a thank you or a shout out to live on the broadcast tonight?
As per usual, yourself for, as always, a professional and brilliant broadcast. All the UKSR admins and stewards that work behind the scenes. All of the guys in UKSR teams for the GT3. Everyone's been really helping each other, especially this week, just get on top of things. And of course, big shout out to Neil for getting his first win. It's been a long time coming. And I think and just everybody else in the league for some great racing.
Well, Matt, we have to also give a big thank you to you, not just for joining me for an interview this evening, but for also the great racing that you've contributed, particularly today. And what a day it's been for yourself, a second place to carry forward into the mid-season break. Can it be a win at the third time of trying at Suzuka? We look forward to seeing you give it your all, but until then, have a fantastic mid-season break, have a great evening ahead, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Cheers, Paul.
So here and there from our final interview, Matt Edmondson for UKSimRacing Steward, and reflecting on today what has definitely been one of those rounds where you can see the progress, but it's also a challenge as well, wanting to take pole position but being pipped to the post by Neil Smith in the end by what was 700s, a tight session, and then in the race itself with the early altercation, and we saw in the replay that we watched much earlier on how in the end Matt was to be jumped by Jack Barker as a result of the two drivers having to find their own ways around the carnage that unfolded on the start-finish straight, and from there it was locked in. A battle for P2 was going to be the story, but for Matt, he had to think strategically. He wasn't making progress by being in the pack, as whilst the Ferrari had the pace, he didn't have the straight line speed. So going for the undercut, it enabled him to leap his way, but he leapt too high, arguing in his own words saying the fact he got ahead of drivers, not just in his own class but in other classes, and then had to try and negotiate maintaining class position while letting overall position go at the right time, and it led to a thrilling battle for P2 in the end, which he managed to fight back and take in the final couple of corners on the final lap for a daring move. But sometimes you got to dare to dream to do so, and that's exactly what the UKSimRacing Steward driver did today. And well, of course, plenty more rounds of racing to come, and he's looking for his first win, his first pole position as well. Could he get it at Suzuka? Only time will tell. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And you've heard from, firstly, James Armstrong from our Honor competition in the number 47, your back-to-back elite winner and overall winner. We then heard from 3 AM drivers, starting off with first-time AM winner Neil Smith there, the privateer, flying the UKSimRacing at flag in the 304. We also heard from Andrew Skinner for Tiki Simsport Corpa in his drive and race for a higher call in support of Cancer Research UK and taking P8 in class today. And then we just heard from Matt Edmondson for UKSimRacing Steward, second place finish in his tooth and nail back and forth fight versus the privateer of Jack Barker. Congratulations to all 4 of our drivers for their performances today, and thank you to them all for joining me in the post-round interview room. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to give you an update on the standings after 2 rounds of racing. A reminder, these standings, of course, are provisional and they may be subject to stewards' inquiries and instant reports after the racing. But we will begin with the elite standings. And here we can see, after 2 rounds, James Armstrong's back-to-back wins mean that he leads the way by 9 points on 83 for our large competition over teammate Aiden Neate. Harold Stratatis moves to P3 for Absolute Motorsport Ace Live, jumping ahead of Alex Millward, as does Jack Taylor, with the Tiki Simsport Tower driver sitting in P4 there on 64 points, and then Millward not able to take part in qualifying, having to fight his way through, salvage some points, but stays at P5 on 61 points, one ahead of Daniel Shilcock, and then it's Eric Rosiv, David Sobreiro, Helder Gonsalves, and Rhys Saunders who complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, P11 is Gavin Gardner for Next Gen Racing, and Yannis Aubert who completes your standings in P12. We then come onto the Pro Class, and here we can see in the Pro Class, it's Ryan Davies who leads the way after leading towards the front of the field, albeit not picking up the win. Josh Pratt taking that today, but leading to back-to-back P2s, and the Tiki Simsport Car Marte driver showing that consistency and pace go hand in hand. However, his sister team driver of Tiki Simsport Corpa's Joshua Pratt with an absolutely emphatic win today will feel as though the confidence rising, and therefore he can carry and take the challenge to his teammate, now with 66 points, 6 clear of Peter Cox. The Destino Motorsports driver not quite on the form he wanted today, in fact found himself going backwards to a degree rather than forwards, but you know it's just a blip, and will be looking to round number 3 to right the wrongs, ahead of Alex Hill and Mark Collicott, with the Tiki Simsport Kimi and DCW Racing drivers completing your top 5 there and separated by only 2 points apiece. Casper Rotner sits P6, only outside the top 5 based on result countback, but the old dudes in cars drive will know he's got close company of AKM Racing UK's Lee King-Magee, who had the difficulty of starting from the back of the grid today, and John Eddowes there sitting in P8 for Tiki Simsport Tour has a 6-point advantage over Khalid Khalid Ramadan, with a SomSport driver fighting hard and taking a great result to offset the difficulties of Daytona. Your top 10 was completed by Krista Halsey for Tractix Racing, who may not have picked up big points today, but definitely enjoyed a lot of battling with Prime drivers. And then outside the top 10, P11 Besteres, Daz Sharples ahead of Nicholas Rice, Rachel Conkley with the unfortunate early retirement, Met Hisley, who was not on the grid today, and Tom Weston on his debut, picking up a reasonable haul of points for DCW Racing, but I think we'll be feeling that a top 5 was on the cards if it were not for the instant or two he was involved in. Casper Tunstead, Ollie Pimley and Daniel Payne compete your championship standings, and will we now move on to the Prime class. And here we can see in our third class, well, it is Chris Constable who leads the way only by a single point over Alan Lever. Despite the fact that Constable was your winner at Daytona, the late error that we saw from him in his chase for the win, it has cost him very dear, and it means that now Alan Lever is the one whose consistency puts him right in the attacking spot. However, in the Destino Motorsports, the UKSimRacing Stewart drivers, let's not forget Simon Oldfield, the Team Vagisil driver, also demonstrating that consistency is key, and an important podium finish today moves him into P3. Rob Zelby and Chris Round complete your top 5, with the win for Chris Round in particular leaping him up to P5, 3 points clear of both Matt Whitefoot and Marvin Cruz, with Steiner Sonny and Jeff Griffiths joined on 48 points, and then Stefan Albanese completing your top 10. Rob Armstrong sits P11 meanwhile, and will get himself set and looking to try and break into the top 10 in the Mercedes AMG Evo machine. But the UKSimRacing Mansell drivers also got to look in his rearview mirror for Red Miss Racing's Steve Hughes and Joel Duton for the wrong stuff. Simon Andre Livingston and Ed Frazina complete your top 15, and then to round off the stands, it's Satinder Deensa, who was not on the grid today, and then Connor Craven, Chris Bates, and Noyo Sabas. We then come on to the AM class, the last of our Drivers' Championship standings, and here we can see it's James Conley, who, despite not picking up a podium today, a great and solid result means that when it's added to his win at Daytona, he stands tall, albeit only by result countback by having one win to the podiums of Jack Barker. The Ford GT driver there, the sole Ford GT, fighting to P2, but as we mentioned or alluded to in our interview with Matt Edmondson, with the top 5 being separated by only 6 points, with Neil Swift completed the top 3 after his win today for UKSimRacing Mansell, and then John Doe and Matt Edmondson completing that top 5, where it could not be closer right now, and John Day is a further 5 points behind the wrong stuff driver, will feel as though he wants to get into the mix as well, albeit not to be the day to do so here in the unfortunate instance the McLaren driver was involved in. Neil Jack sits P7 on 52 points, only ahead of Guy Kyliel based on result countback, with Cy Hartley and James Bostock completing your top 10. And when will the good fortune come to the Petec GP2 driver, with another early instance day in the race cost him dear, and a late one put him out of the podium hunt. Andy Skinner P11 ahead of Frankie Klein, with Shaminda Deensa and Dave Robson completing the championship standings. And then we come on to the team's championship standings, and here we can see our top 20. And after 2 rounds of racing, it is our large competition that lead on 157 to the 145 of UKSimRacing Stewart. UKSimRacing Mansell sit a further 2 points behind, bolstered today by the major results, none more so than that of Neil Smith, with Destino Motorsports P4 then 135 ahead of Tractix Racing, and Tiki Simsport Kimi only outside the top 5 based on result countback, the same for Tiki Simsport Car Marte. Tiki Simsport Tire sits P8 ahead of the wrong stuff, with Tiki Simsport Corpa completing your top 10. And then best of P11 is Racing Lab Esports, who are yet to find their momentum this season and continue to push forward, ahead of Old Dudes in Cars Blue P12. And it's DCW Racing, our large competition Pink, and Team Vagisil complete your top 15, ahead of Absolute Motorsport Ace-Lift, who of course the rename from Over the Limit Racing for Older Stratatus. And then we can see Old Dudes in Cars Black ahead of Effect Simulations, Leroy Jenkins and AKM Racing UK, who complete your top 20. And outside the top 20 in P21, it's SomSport ahead of Built Visible Racing, both on 48 points, and they'll be looking to try and break the way into the top 20 as of next round. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can be on the grid at UKSimRacing, or you just want to be a part of the community or some information in between, and we firstly do recommend that you check out the official website, and that's at uksimracing.co.uk. You saw it earlier on in today's broadcast. It's the greatest source of information for now to join all of our community aspects from our social media through to the official Discord, and also how to find out the details on our upcoming and ongoing series. But perhaps you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you are more of a social media person, then we definitely recommend you go to our official Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, where you can stay up to date with all the latest announcements regarding upcoming broadcasts, upcoming series, and also the trials and tribulations of the official UKSimRacing esports teams. And of course, they're going to be on the grid in a week's time for what is the Daytona 24 Hours, the official iRacing event. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include Swilly Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swilly Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swilly has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swilly being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, which do include the 2021 PESCC, you know you're receiving coaching for the very best in the industry. Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweets, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweets can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high quality sim racing related hardware, as a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. We also have Amazon, the company is trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts that are pioneered by Amazon, which do include one-click shopping, Amazon Alexa, and also Fire TV. And lastly, but by no means least, SRC Driver Academy. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? Affordable quality coaching. They're experienced coaches who provide valuable insights on the competitive edge. They make high quality coaching accessible to all at an affordable cost tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more. And they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we now turn the pace down, of course, because we have our mid-season break as of next Sunday. But don't be fooled, we will be back on Sunday, the 28th of January 2024 for round number 3. We'll be making our way to Japan for the first time this season, and awaiting us is the Goliath of motorsport that is the Suzuka International Racing Course. A circuit that is known perhaps best for its figure of eight layout, but it's also known to be a circuit where nobody is safe from a dramatic race, whether they're at the front of the field or all the way through the back. How will it all play out when we return in Japan in 2 weeks' time? We'll be there, tune in and find out. But until then, we've been UKSimRacing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And just before we go, we wish the best luck to all of our drivers if they are competing in the iRacing official Daytona 24-hour endurance event as of next weekend. Or if you're tuning in right now and you're going to be competing in it, we wish you all the best of luck in that, because it's a big event, of course, the first big event, arguably, of the year on iRacing, if you exclude the Raw before the 24, and we look forward to hearing how everybody gets on. But until next time, as always, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.